Hello, you guys. Hello, hello. Welcome in. How are you guys doing today? Um, I wanted to give a quick shout out to Rose, who's joining us, and I realized I don't have her at mentioned in my title. And I realized that she had with AudioIgnis, bruh. Uh, I'm scuffed, Rose, bro, bro. There we go. There we go. Now she's in the title. Now she's in the title. I've got this. I'm a professional streamer. Y'all go say hi to Rose. Go over to her chat. Go hang out. She's absolutely wonderful. Definitely go and say hello to her. She's streaming with us right now, but also welcome in, Rose. Congrats on the first. And Stan, welcome in. Shy Rose, welcome in. Drac, welcome in. Tora, welcome in. Dante, welcome in. I hope you guys are all doing great today. The nerve of what? Also, you guys, so you guys know, since we're doing our podcast today, we'll be chatting mostly with each other. But of course, if you guys have anything to add in, we'll be reading your messages. If you guys have like questions or your own topics for it, we've been reading through Howl's Moving Castle. We are on the final chapters. This is the end of the book for today. And I'm really looking forward to it. Okay, I just realized I closed Discord and I can't undeafen and unmute for Rose, so let's go ahead and do that. Actually talk to her. You ordered your Steam Deck. Fuck yeah.
About like
Hello.
hello. Hello. I was
Hello.
randomly saying on my Facebook because I'm playing some fall music, some like
Oh,
fall cozy
nice.
1950s style music.
That's smart. I'm just playing piano music. I just found the playlist and I'm like, you know what? Piano sounds nice today.
Yeah, this one is the title of the video is It's 1950s vintage autumn with soft oldies music playing in a reading room. I was like, that
Ooh,
sounds perfect.
that sounds nice.
It's like such like a nice soft little vibe, and like part of me is just like going back to like my Fallout days and I'm just like, yeah, just like a little bit of vibe. Ugh. I
Love
love
it.
fall. It's so cozy. It's sweater weather.
It is. I love that. I don't like wearing like short sleeves. I like getting to wear like long sleeves. It's so cozy.
Right? I have like this big collection of cozy sweaters that I can't freaking wear because I overheat really easily, and so there's like a
Right?
very finite amount of time per year that I can wear them.
Oh, and I love it. I love that time of year. Whenever it's like you
It's
finally get to wear long sleeves. It's so cozy and cute. Yeah,
it's perfect.
it is.
Okay, so we are finishing Howl's Moving Castle.
Yes.
Finally.
I loved
When did
it.
we start this? Like, when did we
I don't
start the
know.
book?
Ages ago.
When did we actually start this? Because it's been a hot minute.
84 years we've been waiting.
It's been 84 years. Let's see. So okay, according to the first thing I posted in my spoiler alert stuff on Discord, it was February 1st.
Damn. So
It's
it's been a
it's been
hot minute.
it's been a hot minute
If
from
we
when we
actually kept up
started
with
this.
doing it every month like we said, we would have definitely finished it sooner. But yeah, no.
We would have
Life.
finished it in 6 months
Yeah. Would not have been too bad.
because this is our sixth episode, and if we did one episode a month, yeah, we would have been 6 months.
At least the next book is very short.
Very short. And
It's a
then we have
very
to figure
small
out
book.
like, do we want to start varying it up? Do we want to keep doing another book? Do we want to do a movie? Do we want
It's a great
webtoons?
question. I'd
We
be
do a
down.
webtoon.
I'd be so down.
Except the only problem with a webtoon is that you'd have to like finish all of it or just do like this many chapters, this many chapters. That would be
Hmm.
interesting, but also a little more difficult.
Yeah.
Something to ponder. Anywho,
We could talk about it.
so just before we get into it, what did you like the ending?
I did. I liked the ending a lot. I thought it was really cute. Like, of
I
course, I want more because I love these characters. I love the interaction, but it closed everything so well. It was just
I think
cute.
so too.
It was just cute. I liked it.
So we did chapters 18 through 21. So we
Mhm.
did 4 chapters for the end. And honestly, like when I was reading it, because not gonna lie, after we did our last stream, I reread it, like the
Uh-huh.
ending, and I was like, oh, it's so good. I was like, well, depending on when we do it again, I'm gonna have to read it again just so it's like fresh in my mind.
Yeah.
So I've reread this ending like 3 or 4 times, and it reads really fast.
It does.
Like, I think it's not necessarily that it's short because the chapters are all like about the same like length, but
Mhm.
I was just so like into it that I was like, oh my gosh, like it went really fast,
No,
which
I
I appreciate in a
agree.
book.
The ending was very like, whenever it reached the last chapter, I'm like, "There's so much that actually needs to be said here," and we're, like, at the last chapter, how are they gonna
I
squeeze it all in? But it actually was done really well. They
was
fit
gonna
it
say
all in very well,
yeah,
very
they
quickly.
really like tied all those loose ends together like
Mhm.
in an instant. It was like, whoa, okay,
But it was well done, it didn't feel rushed, it just was fitting,
exactly.
which was nice.
But you're right. I kind of wish there was an epilogue that was like a little bit more, but anywho, let's okay. Chapter 18, in which the Scarecrow and Miss Angorian reappear. Okay. So I had to like remind myself what happened in chapter 17.
Mhm.
Uh
Yeah, I don't
so
remember
it
anything that happened before. It's
so
been
he
too long.
shows her the flower field that Suleiman started
Mhm.
and that he like enhanced. So it's like he's like, by the way, I bought a flower shop, and by the way, here's this like giant field of flowers. Like, here you go.
Mhm.
So oh, and then so it was and are you trying to find Prince Justin? Sophie asked, but Howl slithered out of answering by racing through the broom cupboard, shouting for Michael. So he's being a slitherer outer again. That's where we
As
left
per
off.
usual. As per usual.
As like you do when you're Howl.
Yep.
Okay, so opening chapter 18, they have opened the flower shop for the next day. Um, so, as Howell had pointed out, it could not have been simpler. Every early morning, all they had to do was open the door with the knob purple down and go out into the swimming green haze of to gather flowers. So, yeah, this just becomes their routine.
Yeah.
They go out, they collect the flowers, they come in, they make arrangements,
Mhm.
and it seems like it goes on for a little bit.
Yeah. They're just kinda sticking to
Like,
this routine for a while.
I imagine I had a hard time like kind of picturing like how long it was, but I assume at least like a week or so,
Mhm.
probably even longer.
I feel like it was
And
longer than
then
that, but yeah.
yeah, because they just fall into like this nice little routine.
Mhm.
And then let's see. I like that they pointed out so two of the buckets that they use for the flowers are the 7 league boots. So those are the boots that he
Mhm.
used to go use to go see Letty. And so
Yeah.
he hasn't been seeing her in a while. Um
I missed that
let's
fact,
see.
I'm not gonna lie.
Yes, well it says so two of the buckets were actually the 7 league boots. Nothing, Sophie thought as she arranged shocks of I think it's gladiolus is a type of flower in them, could show how completely Howell had lost interest in Letty. He did not care now if Sophie used them or not. So she's like, oh, thank the Lord. He's like he's lost interest in my sister because he'd be throwing a fit,
Mhm.
with over these boots. But she's like, he's not interested. And so he's still in his black outfit.
Mhm.
And I love how many times she brings it up that he would not tell her which suit it was.
Right? It
Because she's
drives
still,
her mad.
like, she still doesn't know if it's the gray and red suit or the gray and scarlet suit that is the one who's like supposed to attract the women,
Mhm.
or if it's the blue and silver that's like 500 miles long.
Yeah.
So I just love that she keeps like she's like, which one is it? um, yeah,
I
he
love
would
how
never
jealous
tell
she gets.
Sophie. Oh yeah, oh it's great. He would never tell Sophie which suit the black one really was. I am in mourning for Mrs. Pentstemon was all he would say, as if Sophie or Michael asked why Howell was always at that time was like always away at that time. Howell would look injured and say, "If you want to talk to a school teacher, you have to catch her before school starts." So he keeps disappearing into the Black Knob Down, which is Wales,
Mhm.
and he's going to go see Mrs. or Miss Angorian.
Yeah.
And so um Sophie and Michael are still tending the shop. Let's see. So yeah, she's just. Oh, and this is kind of interesting though. So they all thought that she was Howell's old mother, but Sophie had had enough of being Howell's old mother. I'm his aunt, she told Mrs. S- Cesari, I think.
Something like that.
um, then she became known as Aunt Jenkins. So it's funny how like she just kind of randomly seemingly randomly shifts from I don't want to be his old mom anymore. I'm just his aunt. Which I feel has to do with the fact that Sophie is denying that she likes Howl.
Oh,
Like
absolutely.
she's denying it so bad, but she's like, I don't want to get close to him, I don't want to get close. But being his old mother puts her in this weird I don't want to be
Yeah.
known as his mom. But
Yeah.
like being his aunt's not much better.
But it
But
feels probably slightly better than being his mom. So,
so it's a way of oddly enough, she's socially distancing herself. Like, I'm not his mother,
mhm.
I'm his aunt, but in a way, personally making herself a little closer to him.
Yeah.
It is a very subtle thing, but I actually really liked that.
I did too. I did too.
Let's see. So Howell demanded that they wear their best clothes, and Sophie demanded that they wear aprons. And so Howell has to have a black apron to match his suit because he is just this little aesthetic little gremlin.
Of course.
Let's see. So he made it busier still. This was when Sophie began to be sure that the black suit was really the charmed gray and scarlet one. Any lady Howell served was sure to go away with at least twice the number of flowers she asked for. Most of the time, Howell charmed them into buying 10 times as much. Before long, Sophie noticed ladies peering in and deciding not to come into the shop when they had saw Howell there. She did not blame them. If you just wanted a rose for a buttonhole, you did not want to be forced to buy 3 dozen orchids. She did not discourage Howl when Howl took to spending long hours in the work shed across the yard. So it's that was kind of interesting because you could take that as either, oh, I don't want him in the shop so that he doesn't chase
Mhm.
away the ladies so that they come in and buy stuff, or I don't mind him working long hours in the shed so that he's not talking to the ladies. So that could be taken either way. Me being the hopeless romantic, I choose to believe it's more of, well, I'm not going to say anything because at least he's not talking to the ladies. Because if she
Yeah.
thinks it's the gray and scarlet suit, she's like, it's only a matter of time.
Right? She's so jealous. I love it. She won't admit
Oh,
it,
oh, it's
but
insanely. And then every time something happens with her and her jealousy, it's just like she will come up with any other excuse
Yep,
than to actually admit that she's jealous.
absolutely.
So he's setting up defenses against the witch.
Mhm.
Let's So there are leftover flowers sometimes because there's a giant field of flowers and they go and pick the flowers in the morning.
Yeah.
So Sophie could not bear to see them wilting overnight. She found she could keep them fairly fresh if she talked to them. After that, she talked to the flowers a lot. She got Michael to make her a plant nutrition spell, and she experimented in buckets in the sink and in the tubs in the alcove where where she used to trim hats. She found she could keep some plants fresh for days, so of course she experimented some more. She got the soot out of the yard and planted things in it, muttering busily. She grew a navy rose like that, which pleased her greatly. Its buds were coal black, and its flowers opened bluer and bluer until they became almost the same blue as calcifer. Sophie was so delighted with it that she took roots from all the bags hanging on the beams, I almost said beans, beams, and experimented with those. She told herself she had never been happier in her life. I love that. She told herself she had never been happier in her life.
Trying to convince
And
herself.
literally, next line, this was not true. Something was wrong, and Sophie could not understand what. Sometimes she thought it was the way no one in market shipping recognized her. She did not dare go to see Martha, for fear Martha would not know her either. She did not dare tip the flowers out of the 7 league boots and go and see Letty, for the same reason. She just could not bear either of her sisters to see her as an old woman. Uh-huh, right, that's what's
Hmm.
missing. She says that she's happy to be an old woman, yet the more she interacts with Howl, the less happy she is to be an old woman.
Yep. Well, of
Like,
course.
she's embraced this identity as this old lady. She's used it as an excuse to give herself a bit more strength.
Yeah.
Like, she has done these things, and yet she is truly not happy
Yeah.
because Howl. Like, no matter how much she wants to deny it, that's what's missing, girl. I
Yep.
kept reading that. I was like,
She
girl,
likes Howl
girl.
so much.
Like,
She just
he's
doesn't want to admit
right
it.
there. I'm just like, the girl. I'm like, Sophie, he's like right there. Um, Michael went off with bunches of spare flowers to see Martha all the time. I loved
Adorable.
them together. Like,
Same.
it's just the sweetest thing. Like, Michael's just like, I'm gonna go see, or he still thinks it's Letty. Just, I'm gonna go see Letty. Like, I can
I
just
love it.
imagine
They're
him.
so cute. Like,
They're adorable.
I love
Uh,
it.
Sometimes Sophie thought that was what was the matter with her. Michael was so cheerful, and she was left on her own in the shop more and more often. But that did not seem to be quite it. Sophie enjoyed selling flowers on her own. Sometimes the trouble seemed to be Calcifer. Calcifer was bored. He had nothing to do except keep the castle gently drifting along the lanes of grass and round the various pools and lakes, and to make sure that they arrived in a new spot with new flowers every morning. His blue face was always leaning eagerly out of the grate when Sophie and Michael came in with their flowers. I want to see what it's like out there, he said. Sophie brought him tasty smelling leaves to burn, which made the castle room smell as strongly as the bathroom. But Calcifer said that he said that blah, blah, blah. Calcifer said what he really wanted was company. They went into the shop all day and left him alone. So she's like, well, maybe it's that nobody recognizes me, or well, maybe it's the fact that like I can't go see my sisters. Or maybe it's the fact that, Michael's so cheerful. Or maybe it's just Calcifer. Like, girl,
Right?
quit coming up with
Blaming
excuses.
everything else except for the fact that she's just upset 'cause she likes Howl.
Mm-hmm.
She's living as the old lady. Yep, yep, yep.
Yep. So she plays with Calcifer. She plays these guessing games with him just to keep him, you know, not bored.
Yeah.
But Calcifer was still discontented. When are you going to break my contract with Howl? He said more and more often. So this is one of those things that makes me think that it was a decent bit of time, because
Hmm.
if in her spare time she randomly goes and plays these games with him and he's asking more and more often, I'm assuming this might have been like a couple weeks.
I feel like this could have been months. I'm not even kidding. I feel like with the like regularity of everything, how often she was going to like hang out with Calcifer, just like how established their business had become, I feel like it was taking months at this point.
It's an interesting thought of like them living this like domestic life together
Yeah.
for months.
I just feel like it was a long period of time. I want to say years, but at least months.
Yeah. And Sophie put Calcifer off. I'm working on it, she said. It won't be long now. This was not quite true. Sophie had stopped thinking of it unless she had to. When she put together what Mrs. Pentstemon had said with all the things Howl and Calcifer had said, she found she had some strong rather terrible ideas about the contract. She was sure that breaking it would be the end of both Howl and Calcifer. Howl might deserve it, but Calcifer did not. Everything. He might deserve
Sure.
death.
Sure, Sophie, sure.
And since Howl seemed to be working quite hard in order to slither out of the rest of the witch's curse, Sophie wanted to do nothing unless she could help.
Which is fair.
So the dog man is still just really weird. Like, I
Yeah.
I don't I don't think there was like a regular moment where I wasn't slightly creeped out by him for like the rest of the book.
Honestly, same. Yeah, he was a little creepy to me too, but I feel like with at least what's going to be coming up, what we'll be talking about, it kind of makes sense for it
But,
to be a little
like,
creepy.
but the vibes were weird. Like, even
Yeah,
for what he is, like, it was just
it
weird.
was. No, I agree. It was very unsettling.
Let's see. The only time he seemed to enjoy himself was when he chased down the green lanes between the bushes every morning. For the rest of the day, he trudged gloomily about after Sophie, sighing deeply. As Sophie could do nothing about him either, she was rather glad when the weather grew hotter and hotter towards midsummer day, and the dogman took to lying in patches of shade out in the yard, panting. Meanwhile, the roots Sophie had planted had become quite interesting. The onion had become a small palm tree and was sprouting little onion scented nuts. Another root grew into a sort of pink sunflower. The only one was slow to grow. When at last it put out two round green leaves, Sophie could hardly wait to see what it would grow into. The next day it looked as if it might be an orchid. It had pointed leaves, spotted with mauve, and a long stalk growing out of the middle with a large bud on it. The day after that, Sophie left the fresh flowers in the tin bath and hurried eagerly to the alcove to see how it was getting on. The bud had opened into a pink flower, like that of an orchid, that had been through a mangle. It was flat and joined to the stalk just below a round tip. There were four petals sprouting from a plump pink middle, two pointing downward and two more halfway up that stuck out sideways. Sophie had stared at it. A strong scent of spring flowers warned her that Howl had come in and was standing behind her. "What is that thing?" he said. "If you were expecting an ultraviolet violet or an infrared geranium, you got it wrong, Mrs. Mad Scientist." I love how many nicknames he has for her.
Right? I love it. I
Yeah,
love their
so
relationship.
no, she's Mrs. Mad Scientist. "It looks to me like a squashed baby flower," Michael said, coming to look. It did too. Howl shot Michael an alarmed look and picked up the flower in its pot. He slid it out of the pot into his hands, where he carefully separated the white, thready roots and the soot and the remains of the manure spell, until he uncovered the brown, forked root Sophie had grown from it. "I might have guessed," he said. "It's a mandrake root."
Of course.
Sophie strikes again. I could not find the freaking, like, the
Oh my gosh, I don't know where it is. Yeah, no, I don't know where that
like,
thing is either,
I
but
kept looking. Oh, there it is. Okay.
you find
It's
it?
on page 176. It's "Go and catch a falling star, get with child a mandrake root." So she grew a mandrake root and the plant
Mm-hmm.
looked like a baby.
Yep.
"Tell me where all past years are, or who cleft the devil's foot. Teach me to hear the mermaids singing, or keep off envy stinging, and find what wind serves to advance an honest mind." Okay, so we've already seen many of these things like
Mm-hmm.
come true.
Yeah,
So I think this is like the next to last one.
I think so,
Cause
yeah.
now that we've seen the magic root, I think the only thing we haven't seen is an honest mind.
Yep.
And it's interesting that he's not like angry. He's not like raging when he says this,
Mm-hmm.
but just "I might have guessed," he said. "It's a mandrake root." Sophie strikes again. "You do have a touch, don't you, Sophie?" He put the plant carefully back, passed it to Sophie, and went away looking rather pale. So, like, he's not angry with her, but the fact that if she
Yeah.
hadn't Frankenstein these plants,
Yep.
this wouldn't have happened. Let's see. It was.
He's just
Uh,
accepting of it though. He's not even mad. He's just like, "Yep, this happened now. All right."
I could just imagine him slowly walking away, just going, like, like,
Yeah.
poor guy. So that was almost all of the curse come true, Sophie thought as she went to arrange the fresh flowers in the window shop window. The magic root had had a baby. That only left one more thing, the wind to advance an honest mind. If it meant Howell's mind had to be honest, Sophie thought, there was a chance that the curse might never come true.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like he's a liar, he's so dishonest, he's just gonna slither out of telling the truth. She's like,
Except
well,
it's accurate though. Like obviously he's doing it on purpose to avoid, you know,
yeah.
the curse coming true.
Oh yeah.
So
She and she told herself it served Howl right anyway for going courting Miss Angorian every morning in a charmed suit, but she still felt alarmed and guilty. So at least she does feel bad.
yeah,
Like she's like, "Oh, I kind of made this happen." But like she's mad at Howl for going to see Miss Angorian, and she specifically says in a charmed suit. So
hmm
she's like, he's just charming all the ladies.
she's just
I'm
assuming the
like,
suit too. She still doesn't know, but she's just like, "Yep, he's
yeah.
definitely going in a charmed suit to
She's
charm
like,
her."
it's obviously the gray and scarlet suit. Like that's
Obviously.
of course he's wearing that one. She let's see. Dun, 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 dun. So she arranged a sheaf of white lilies in a 7 league boot. She crawled into the window to get them just so, and she heard a regular clump 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 from outside in the street. It was not the sound of a horse, it was the sound of a stick hitting the stones. Sophie's heart was behaving oddly even before she dared look out of the windows. There, sure enough, came the scarecrow, hopping slowly and purposefully down the center of the street. The rags trailing from its outstretched arms were fewer and grayer, and the turnip of its face was withered into a look of determination, as if it had hoped ever since Howl hurled it away, and or hopped, ever since Howl hurled it away, until it at last had hopped its way back. It found her.
Of course.
Sophie was not the only one to be scared. The few people, because I was wondering, I was like, does nobody notice this,
hmm
like, this scarecrow? the few people that, the few people about that early were running away from the scarecrow as hard as they could run, but the scarecrow took no notice and hopped on. Sophie hid her face from it. We're not here, she told it in a fierce whisper. You do not know we're here. You can't find us. Hop away fast. She's still so terrified of this scarecrow.
I can't
Uh,
understand it. She was like friends with it and now she's scared of it just because it's moving.
right.
Like
Right?
like
Right? She's
she's the
like,
one that
"Hello,
helped it.
Scarecrow."
Yeah.
And now she's just like, if she knew, like, because she knows, because she says that, oh, I could keep the flowers alive by talking to them, or oh,
Yeah.
like she knows what her power is now. Like
More or
she
less,
knows
yeah.
that,
I feel like she's
yeah, more
denying it. She's denying it, but she knows.
like she knows, and like especially with the flowers, like she's using it.
hmm
But once again, she's the denier of everything.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, so she's like terrified of this scarecrow. And I'm like, girl, like you know what you can do. Like you did this.
Right? But she's in denial. She's still in
Oh
denial.
yeah. So like obviously she tells it like, oh, we're not here, we're not here, we're not here. And then it turns and it hops away.
hmm
Because that's what, Sophie does.
Yep.
Uh Howell had gone out when Sophie went into the castle room. He seems awful upset, Michael said. Sophie looked at the door. The knob was blacked down. Not that upset, she thought. she's she's so grumpy. She's like, obviously he's not upset enough to go see his girlfriend.
Sophie in Egypt because she's in denial.
Oh yeah.
Sorry.
Oh
Red
no,
with the jokes. Also, hi Scotty, welcome in.
she is just completely like beside herself with jealousy, and she doesn't even like
So funny.
realize it.
Yeah.
So it's it's almost midsummer day, and so it's getting hot. All the flowers are wilting. Uh, it may be the curse hovering to catch up with Howl, she sighed to the flowers. But I think it's being the eldest, really. Look at me. I set out to seek my fortune, and I ended up exactly where I started, and as old as the hills still. Let's see.
She's still just like, yeah, no, she's just a denier. She denies everything and she just doesn't accept that anything can change. She's just like, this is my life. This is it. I have to suffer.
Yep, she's so many excuses. I'm like,
Yep.
girl, Sophie. So the dog comes in,
Don't mind me as I
and
snack for a moment.
huh?
I'm gonna snack for a moment.
Okay. So the dog comes in and Sophie sees that he sat up and stretched his paws out stiffly in front of him. Sophie realized he was trying to turn into a man. Poor creature. She tried to be nice to him because he was, after all, worse off than she was. Try harder, she said. Put your back into it. You can be a man if you want. The dog stretched and straightened its back, and strained and strained. And just as Sophie was sure he was going to have to give up or topple over backward, he managed to rise on his hind legs and heave himself into a distraught, ginger-haired man. I envy Howl, he panted. Does that so easily. I was dog in the hedge. You helped. Told Letty. I knew you. I'd keep watch. I was here before, and he began to double up again into a dog and howled with annoyance. With witch in shop, he wailed, and fell forward onto his hands, growling a great deal of growing a great deal of gray and white hair as he did so. Sophie stared at the large, shaggy dog that now stood there. You were with the witch, she said. She remembered now. The anxious, ginger-haired man who had stared at her in horror. Then you know who I am, and you know I am under a spell. Does Letty know too? The huge, shaggy head nodded. So he was the one who, I guess he was the man in the shop when the Witch of the Wastes came and cursed her. And
Yes.
he was also the dog with Letty. So he's kind of
Yes.
connected. He's been there this whole time.
Mm-hmm.
And she called you Gaston, Sophie remembered. Oh, my friend, she's made it hard for you. Fancy having all that hair in this weather. You'd better go somewhere cool. The dog nodded again and shambled miserably into the yard. But why did Letty send you? She wondered. She felt thoroughly put out and disturbed by this discovery. She went up the stairs and through the broom cupboard to talk to Calcifer. Calcifer was not much help. It does not make any difference how people know you're under, or how many people know you're under a spell, he said. It hasn't helped the dog much, has it? No, but, Sophie began, but just then, the castle door clicked open. Sophie and Calcifer looked. They saw the doorknob was still set black down, and they expected Howl to come through it. It was hard to say which of them was more astonished when the person who slid rather cautiously round the door turned out to be Miss Angorian. Miss Angorian was equally astonished. Oh, I beg your pardon, she said. I thought Mr. Jenkins might be here. He's out, Sophie said stiffly, and she wondered where Howell had gone if not to see Miss Angorian. Miss Angorian let go of the door, which she had been clutching in her surprise. She left it swinging open on nothing and came pleadingly towards Sophie. Sophie found she had got herself. Sophie found she had got up herself and come across the room. It seemed as if she was trying to block Miss Angorian off. Please, said Miss Angorian, don't tell Mr. Jenkins I was here. To tell you the truth, I only encouraged him in hopes of getting news of my fiance, Ben Sullivan. You know, I'm positive Ben disappeared to the same place Mr. Jenkins keeps disappearing to. Only Ben didn't come back. So, what I find most interesting
Mm-hmm.
about Miss Angorian. So, we know, because,
Yeah.
we're outside the book, that she's from Wales. Wales does not have any magic, it is a part of
Yeah.
our world. Yet, when Miss Angorian comes in, she is not surprised by what she sees.
Yeah. Not even
Like, she's
slightly.
not freaked out by the fact that this doesn't match.
Yeah. Not at all. It's weird.
And, like, that's one thing that Sophie doesn't seem to think it's strange because I don't think Sophie really understands the differences between the worlds.
Yeah.
And so she's like, it struck me instantly as very odd that Miss Angorian doesn't seem to
Same.
think this room is weird. And I
Same.
think I don't know if it was intentionally done by the author or
I feel
not,
like
but if
it
it was
was. Knowing
intentional,
how the story ends, I feel like it was.
I feel
Absolutely.
like it was brilliant though, because if you're
Mm-hmm.
not really thinking about it, you're just like, oh yeah, like, oh, why is Miss Angorian here? Like,
Yeah.
you're not thinking of it as odd as it is, but if you're really like digging deep into it, then you're like, wait a second.
Yeah.
Like, why is she not freaking out?
Yep. I feel like it was absolutely intentional.
Yeah, so Let's see. There's no Mr. Sullivan here, Sophie said, and she thought, that's Wizard Suleiman's name. I don't believe a word of it. Oh, I know that, Miss Angorian said, but this feels like the right place. Do you mind if I just look around a little to give myself some idea of the sort of life Ben's leading now? She hooked her sheet of black hair behind one ear and tried to walk further into the room. Sophie stood in the way. This forced Miss Angorian to tiptoe pleadingly. I don't know why they keep saying pleadingly away sideways toward the workbench. How very quaint, she said, looking at the bottles and the jars. What a quaint little town, she said. So that's another, like, she comments that it's a quaint little town.
Yeah.
Like, she knows they're not in Wales anymore. Which I'm
But
like,
she's just chill with it. Like,
I'm like, Sophie, you should, like, the red flags. More red flags in the Beijing Olympics right here. Like, there's some problems.
right?
But like I said, I think Sophie, because Sophie's used to magic stuff because her
Yeah.
world has magic. So it's very interesting that Sophie is not picking this up.
Yeah.
Let's see.
I think it's because Sophie's just in such a slump still in her own mind. You know what I mean? With like she's more dealing with the jealousy and Miss Angorian being here that she's not thinking through the rest of the situation that's taking place.
I definitely think that's a contributing factor to this. But like, I don't think Howl ever sat down and explained to her. So, by the way, this place
Uh
called Wales, like, it's not a because
yeah.
Sophie when she was in the car, like she was like, this strange, horseless carriage that's going way too fast.
Yep.
And like the TV, she saw Howl's nephew playing video games, and she was like,
Mhm.
what? Like, so I don't think she understands quite because like the other doors are all in their world, but the
Yeah.
one door, the black door, leads to a different world. So I don't think she quite understands that. And she's also dealing with all the jealousy.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what a quaint little town, she said, looking out of the window. It's called Market Shipping, Sophie said, and moved round, herding Miss Angorian back towards the door. And what's up those stairs? Miss Angorian asked, pointing to the open door to the stairs. Howl's private room, Sophie said firmly, walking Miss Angorian away backward. And what's through that other open door? Miss Angorian asked. A flower shop, said Sophie. Nosy Parker, she thought.
Just giving
So,
away all of the details. Like
well, I think it's kind of funny because Sophie's known for being the one who's like super nosy, and now
yeah.
she's like, "Hey, it's like quit being so nosy." Like, okay, a little bit of the pot calling the kettle black, but
Mm-hmm.
by this time, Miss Angorian either had to back into the chair or out through the door again. She stared at Calcifer in a vague, frowning way, as if she was not sure what she was seeing, and Calcifer simply stared back without saying a word. This made Sophie feel better about being so unfriendly. Other people who understood Calcifer were really welcome in Howl's house. But now Miss Angorian made a dive around the chair and noticed Howl's guitar leaning in the corner. She snatched it up with a gasp and turned round, holding it to her chest possessively. Where did you get this? She demanded in a low, emotional voice. Ben has a guitar like this. It could be Ben's. I heard Howl bought it last winter, Sophie said, and she walked forward again, trying to scoop Miss Angorian out of her corner and through the door. Something's happened to Ben, Miss Angorian said throbbingly. Some of the words they use to describe like
Mm-hmm.
how they're talking, like she pleadingly moved or she said throbbingly. What does that mean?
I feel like it's trying to show like she's trying to act very like desperately searching for Ben is what it's going through. And
It's
it's
just
like
a weird word to use.
it is, but I feel like it's used probably to try to make it more dramatic, I think, to really show how dramatic she's being about it. You know what I mean?
It's just one of those things while I was reading it, it like took me out of the book a little bit because I'm like,
Yeah.
what the heck? Like, what does that even mean? Throbbingly. Like, honestly, as a romance reader, I would think that's something more for like a romance novel. Like,
Yeah.
but it's just like it was a little jarring, like the word choice. I'm like, I might have said like desperately or dramatically, not
Yeah.
throbbingly.
Yeah.
Uh, he would never have parted from his guitar. Where is he? I know he can't be dead. I'd know it in my heart if he were. Sophie wondered whether to tell Miss Angorian that the witch had caught Wizard Suleiman. She looked across to see where the human skull was. She had half a mind to wave it in Miss Angorian's face and say it was Wizard Suleiman's. Sophie's getting mean!
She's jealous. She's hella jealous.
She's getting hateful, though. Like,
Yeah.
it is because she won't admit that she's jealous. She can't process that, so she's like lashing out like really bad.
Yeah.
But the skull was in the sink, hidden behind a bucket of spare ferns and lilies, and she knew that if she went over there, Miss Angorian would ooze out into the room again. Besides, it would be unkind. So after she has this thought, well, no, because then she'd get into the room, and I guess that would be mean. May I take this guitar? Miss Angorian said huskily, clutching it to her to remind me of Ben. The throb in Miss Angorian's voice annoyed Sophie. No, she said. There's no need to be so intense about it. You've no proof it was his. She hobbled close to Miss Angorian and seized the guitar by its neck. Miss Angorian stared at her over it with wide, anguished eyes. Sophie dragged. Miss Angorian hung on. The guitar gave out a horrible, out-of-tune jangle. Sophie jerked it out of Miss Angorian's arms. Don't be silly, she said. You've no right to walk into people's castles and take their guitars. I told you, Mr. Sullivan is not here. Now go back to Wales. Go on. She's shooing her like she would shoo a stray cat.
Yeah.
And she
I
used the
mean,
guitar to
she's
push
probably
Miss.
kind of coping a bit. She's trying to be nice on one hand, on the other hand, she's hella jealous, and so she's just like, get out. Please just get out.
Like, I feel like in the very beginning, Sophie might have been like, oh, hi, Miss Angorian. Like, come sit down, have a drink. And now she's like, shoo, off with you.
Yep.
She's like one step away from just getting a broom and like shushing her like a stray cat.
Literally.
Get out here.
I love it.
Let's see. And she used the guitar to push Miss Angorian backward through the open door. Miss Angorian backed into the nothingness until half of her vanished. You're hard, she said reproachfully. Yes, I am, said Sophie and slammed the door on her. She turned the knob orange down to prevent Miss Angorian coming back and dumped the guitar back in its corner with a firm twang. Don't you dare tell Howl she was here, she said unreasonably to Calcifer. I bet she came to see Howl. The rest was just a pack of lies. Wizard Suleiman was settled here years ago. He probably came to get away from her beastly throbbing voice. Oh, she's just admit it, Sophie. Casper chuckled. I've never seen anyone got rid of so fast, he said. This made Sophie feel both unkind and guilty. After all, she herself had walked into the castle in much the same way, and she had been twice as nosy as Miss Angorian. She said. She slumped into the bathroom and stared at her withered old face in the mirror. She picked up one of the packets labeled skin and then tossed it down again. Even young and fresh, she did not think her face compared particularly well with Miss Angorian's. She hobbled rapidly back and seized the ferns and lilies from the sink. She hobbled them, dripping to the shop, where she rammed them into a bucket of nutrition spell. Be daffodils, she told them in a mad, angry, croaking voice. Be daffodils in June, you beastly things. The dogman put his shaggy face round the yard door. When he saw the mood Sophie was in, he backed out again hurriedly. When Michael came merrily in with a large pie a minute later, Sophie gave him such a glare that Michael immediately remembered a spell Howl had asked him to make up and fled away through the broom cupboard. Gah! Sophie snarled at him, bent over her bucket again. Be daffodils. Be daffodils, she croaked. It did not make her feel any better that she knew it was a silly way to behave. She's so upset! Like,
Yep.
enough to go into Howell's bathroom, look at the packets, and see the one labeled skin, almost wanting to, like, use it on herself to try to see if it can make her the young girl she was before. And
Yeah.
then she's just like, no, I don't compare to Miss Angorian. And then she gets angry because I can see it in her head. Like, she's imagining this beautiful Miss Angorian, and the faint thought, maybe even just like subconsciously, if I'm a young woman again, maybe I would stand a chance. And then she's like, I'm never gonna be as beautiful as Miss Angorian. So she's mad because she's like, even if I
Mhm.
was young again, Howl's never gonna want me. And she's just mad.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mad enough to take the flowers, and now, like, she's almost just being nonsensical. She's ordering these flowers to be daffodils,
She's just taking all
and
of her anger out on these flowers. Like
yeah, these poor flowers. And I think part of it is she's trying to take like these spare flowers that were just kind of cast aside, and she's putting
Mhm.
them with the nutrition spell, and she's trying to make something beautiful out of something like grotesque now, because
Yeah.
I'm assuming she's like stuffed them in there. So it's just this like heap of broken flowers and probably like manure and dirt, and she's angry, and she's trying to make something beautiful just like herself in the mirror.
Yeah.
She's There's this parallel between Sophie and this mess that she's made, and she wants it to be beautiful, but it's just not happening. And so she's just
Mhm.
like so hurt. And poor Michael is just like, do you have, what's that? Oh, yeah, I
Poor
forgot about this
Michael.
work I had to do. Michael and the dog just like looks, and he's like, nope,
Nope, not dealing
not
with
today.
that.
I really like, you can feel her angst, and she's
Yeah.
just so upset. I'm like, Sophie, honey, like, uh, I love the title of this chapter, chapter 19, in which Sophie expresses her feelings with Weed Killer.
Yep.
That about sums it up.
Pretty much. That is literally the chapter.
Yep, that is exactly sums it up perfectly. Howl opened the shop door towards the end of the afternoon and sauntered in whistling. He seemed to have got over the mandrake route. It did not make Sophie feel any better to find he had not gone to Wales after all. She gave him her very fiercest glare. Merciful heavens, Howl said. I think that it turned me to stone. What's the matter? Sophie only snarled. What suit are you wearing? Howl looked down at his black garments. Does it matter? Yes, Sophie growled. And don't give me that about being in mourning. Which one is it really? Hal shrugged and held up one trailing sleeve as if he were not sure which it was. He stared at it, looking puzzled. The black color of it ran downward from his shoulder to the pointed, hanging tip. His shoulder and the top of his sleeve grew brown, and then gray, while the pointed tip turned inkier and inkier until Howell was wearing a black suit with one blue and silver sleeve, whose end seemed to have been dipped in tar. That one, he said, and let the black spread up to his shoulder again. Sophie was somehow more annoyed than ever. She gave a wordless grump of rage. Sophie, Howell said in his most laughing, pleading way. So, stop. This whole time that she's like, obviously, that's the only reason that I could ever be swayed was that he's wearing the gray and scarlet suits.
Mhm.
And lo and behold, this whole time, he's been wearing the blue and silver suit.
Not charming a single person.
Not magically charming a single person, that's just Howl, and she's mad.
Yup.
Because her excuse is gone now. It was so easy to excuse this fluttering in her heart, because obviously she was being taken in by this gray and scarlet suit,
Mhm.
obviously. And now she has been proved wrong. It is the blue and silver suit. And I laughed and laughed. I'm like, oh, honey, no, it wasn't magic. You just like the boy. But
Yep.
also, that means that he was not charming those people in the shop either. Girls
Nope.
just like him.
Yep.
That's just some good old fashioned cute boy.
Yep.
And just this, like, and he's so, like, casual about it. That one.
Yep.
Like, oh yeah, that's that suit. And he doesn't understand. Like,
I feel like he is definitely intentionally wearing that suit, though. Like, he's definitely not wearing the charmed one. I feel very intentionally. He
Because,
knows the one is charmed. I have
well,
no doubt.
Howl's a wizard. So
Yeah,
he obviously, I think he would obviously feel that something was up with it.
yeah,
And so, like, even if he couldn't necessarily discern exactly what it was, he knows something's up.
yeah,
So yeah,
100%.
he's wearing the blue and silver suit,
Mhm.
and just she gave a wordless grump of rage. I just imagine this like,
Yep.
and the fact that Howell responds to her anger in his most laughing, pleading way. The dogman
He's just
pushed open.
amused.
Oh yeah, it's just like I can just imagine like Sophie, like kind of like when your dog's mad at you and you're just like, hey, like,
Yep,
you're kind of laughing, but
exactly.
you're oh.
Exactly.
I could just imagine if he tried to like pat her head or something, she would probably take his hand off.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
Like, oh, she's so mad. The dogman pushed open the yard door and stumbled in, or shambled in. They also like that one, to
Mhm.
shamble. Let's see. He never would let Howl talk to Sophie for long. Howl stared at it. You've got an old English sheepdog now, he said, as if he was glad of the distraction. 2 dogs are going to take a lot of feeding. There's only one dog, Sophie said crossly. He's under a spell. He is, said Howl, and he set off towards the dog with a speed that showed he was quite glad to get away from Sophie. This, of course, was the last thing the dogman wanted. He backed away. Howl pounced and caught him by 2 handfuls of shaggy hair before he could reach the door. So he is, he said, and knelt down to look into what could be seen of the sheepdog's eyes. Sophie, he said, what do you mean by not telling me about this? This dog is a man, and he's in a terrible state. Like, this whole time, I think even Michael knew.
Yeah, no, everybody
And he
knew.
was just he's like, what do you mean this is a man, not a dog? Howl whirled around on one knee, still holding the dog. Sophie looked into Howl's glass marble glare and realized Howl was angry now, really angry. Good. So Sophie felt like a fight. I have now officially experienced the delight of fighting. I got into a fight at work and I was amped. So
Yeah.
like I can sympathize with Sophie right now. Like she's so angry that now that Howl's mad, she's like, yes,
Yeah, I feel like
yes, we're gonna fight.
it's all just built up to where she's just like, I need this. I need to just
Yep.
fight and be angry.
She she needs that catharsis. Just like
Yep.
we're gonna fight. You could have noticed for yourself, she said, glaring back, daring Howl to do his worst with green slime. Green slime. Anyways, the dog didn't want. Hal was too angry to listen. He jumped up and hauled the dog across the tiles. And so I would have done if I had not. If I hadn't had things on my mind, he said. Come on, I want you in front of Calcifer. The dog braced on all 4 shaggy feet. Howl lugged at it, braced and sliding. Michael! He yelled. There was a particular sound to that yell which brought Michael running. And did you know this dog was really a man? Howell asked as he and Michael dragged the reluctant mountain of dog up the stairs. He's not, is he? Michael asked, shocked and surprised. Oh. So he didn't know. I think he knew that the dog was spelled, but I don't apparently he did not know that it was a man.
Oh, he didn't? Oh, but Calcifer
No.
did.
Yeah,
That's right,
oh
that's
yeah,
right.
Calcifer's the one.
Yeah.
Then I'll let you off and just blame Sophie, Howell said, hauling the dog through the broom cupboard. Anything like this is always Sophie. But you knew, didn't you, Calcifer? He said as the 2 of them dragged the dog in front of the hearth. Calcifer retreated until he was bent backwards against the chimney. You never asked, he said. Do I have to ask you? Howell said. All right, I should have noticed myself, but you disgust me, Calcifer. Compared with the way the witch treats her demons, or her demon, you live a revoltingly easy life, and all I ask in return is that you tell me things I need to know. This is twice you've let me down now. Now help me get this creature to its own shape this minute. So that's interesting. I don't recall when he said the first time, but he says this is twice you've let me down now. So I'm like, What is it with the first one?
I think it's something that was probably earlier on, but I'm not sure exactly what it was. But I don't remember if they
Right.
bring it
So
up.
I'm like,
So
I'm curious. Maybe doing a little bit more of a thorough search later on might actually tell us.
yeah. But I will
Uh,
say back to a part that was there earlier that I really liked. Just knowing what I know now and reading it now, whenever Howl was saying that he or like she was like you could have noticed for yourself, and then he's just like, and so I would have done if I hadn't had things on my mind. Knowing what's to come with like what exactly is on his mind, it's just cute.
there, there's a whole lot on Howl's mind.
And we know that I'm just gonna say it. The thing that is 100% on Howell's mind is Sophie. You know
Oh
it.
yeah,
You know that's
nonstop Sophie
exactly
all the
what's on
time.
his mind. Yep. So he's totally distracted, didn't notice the curse on the dog man, all because of Sophie.
I think also, like, because the spell or the curse says that he has to be honest, I think that
Mhm.
horrifies him and terrifies him more than anything.
Yeah.
Is I think that's one of his main thoughts is all
Yeah.
the stuff that he's lied about that he's going to have to be honest about, and I think it
Yeah.
just terrifies him.
Absolutely.
He's like, oh crap, I'm going to tell the truth about everything. Let's see. Sorry, my internet started to go a little wonky. Hopefully
All
it
good, all good.
stays up. I think it froze. Oh, we went to 0.
Oh, we'll wait a minute for it to
Hopefully,
come back. Yeah, it looks like your stream is in a bit of a loop right now. See if it comes back on.
yeah.
Wait, it looks like it might be back. Nope,
What
I
is
lied.
wrong with
It's
my
not.
internet? Well, anyhow. Um,
Your stream is
where were
off
we?
at the very least. I have it up on my phone.
Mm, okay, let's see. What's the silly creature holding out for? Howl panted. This feels like one of the Witch of the Wastes again, doesn't it? Yes, there are several layers of it, said Calcifer. Let's get the dog part off anyway, said Howl. Calcifer surged to a deep roaring blue. Sophie watched prudently from the door of the broom cupboard, saw the shaggy dog shape fade away inside the shape of a man. Or the man shape. It faded to dog again, then back to man, blurred then hardened. Finally, Howl and Michael were holding the arm of a ginger-haired man in a crumpled brown suit. Sophie was not surprised she had not recognized him. Apart from his anxious look, his face was almost totally lacking in personality. Now who are you, my friend? Howl asked him. The man put his hands up and shakily felt his face. I'm not sure. Calcifer said, the most recent name he answered to was Percival. The man looked at Calcifer as if he wished Calcifer did not know this. Did I? He said. Then we'll call you Percival from now. Or for now, Howell said. He turned the ex-dog round and sat him in the chair. Sit there and take it easy, and tell us what you remember. By the feel of you, the witch had you for some time. Yes, said Percival, rubbing his face again. She took my head off. I remember being on a shelf, looking at the rest of me. Michael was astonished. But you'd be dead, he protested. Not necessarily, said Howl. You haven't got to that sort of witchcraft yet. But I could take any piece of you I wanted and leave the rest of you alive, if I went about it the right way. Which is creepy!
Yeah, it's
Like,
very creepy,
so creepy. Like, I read that part, I was like, heebie-jeebies.
right?
Uh, he frowned at the ex-dog. I'm not sure the witch put this one back together properly. Casper, who was obviously trying to prove that he was working hard for Howl, said, this man is incomplete, and he has parts from some other man, too. Percival looked more distraught than ever. Don't alarm him, Calcifer, Howl said. He must feel bad enough anyway. Do you know why the witch took your head off, my friend? He asked Percival. No, said Percival. I don't remember anything. Sophie knew that could not be true. She snorted rather. Michael was suddenly seized with a most exciting idea. He leaned over to Percival and asked, Did you ever answer to the name of Justin, or your Royal Highness? Sophie snorted again. She knew this was ridiculous, even before Percival said, "No, the witch called me Gaston, but that isn't my name." "Don't crowd him, Michael," said Howl, "and don't make Sophie snort again. The mood she's in, she'll bring down the castle next time." I love how Sophie's still in like the back of his mind, even though
Yep,
he's like focused
always.
on the dog and everything. Sophie's just always like in his periphery.
Mhm.
Though that seemed to mean Howl was no longer angry, Sophie found herself angrier than ever. She stumped off into the shop, where she banged about, shutting the shop and putting things away for the night. She went to look at her daffodils. Something had gone horribly wrong with them. These are the ones that she, yeah, shoved into the bucket.
Yeah.
They were wet brown things trailing out of the bucket, full of the most poisonous smelling liquid she had ever come across. "Oh, confound it all," Sophie yelled. "What's all this now?" said Howl, arriving in the shop. He bent over the bucket and sniffed. "You seem to have some rather efficient weed killer here. How about trying it on the weeds on the of the mansion?" "I will," said Sophie. "I feel like killing something."
She's so
Uh,
angry.
oh, so mad. And I feel like she's like a mad cat. Like, you're just like, "Aw." Are you mad? She slammed around until she had found a watering can, and stumped through into the castle with the can and the bucket, where she hurled open the door, orange down, onto the mansion drive. Percival looked up anxiously. They had given him the guitar, rather as you gave a baby a rattle, and he was sitting making horrible twangings. "You go with her, Percival," Howell said. "The mood she's in, she'll be killing all the trees, too." So Percival laid down the guitar and took the bucket carefully out of Sophie's hand. Sophie stumped into a golden summer evening at the end of the valley. Everyone had been
Hey,
too
Frosty.
busy.
Sorry, keep going.
Oh, um, everyone had been too busy up to now to pay much attention to the mansion. It was much grander than Sophie had realized. It had a weedy terrace with statues along the edge and steps down to the drive. When Sophie looked back, on the pretext of telling Percival to hurry up, she saw the house was very big, with more statues along the roof and rows of windows, but it was derelict. Green mildew ran down the peeling walls from every window. Many of the windows were broken, and the shutters that would have folded against the wall beside them were gray and blistered and hanging sideways. "Ha!" said Sophie. "I think the least Hal could do uh, is to make this place look a bit more lived in. But no, he's off. He's far too busy gadding off to Wales. Don't just stand there, Percival. Pour some of that stuff into the can and then come along behind me." Percival meekly did as she said. He was no fun at all to bully. So Sophie likes bullying Howl and Michael.
Oh, yeah.
I think it's because they give her a reaction.
Yeah.
But like Percival's just like, "Oh, okay." Like he's so meek and she's like, "Damn, you're no fun."
Yeah.
Sophie suspected that's why Howl had sent him with her. She snorted and took her anger out on the weeds. Whatever the stuff was that had killed the daffodils, it was strong. The weeds in the drive died as soon as it touched them. So did the grass at the sides of the drive, until Sophie calmed down a little. The evening calmed her. The fresh air was blowing off the distant hills, and clumps of trees planted at the sides of the drive rustled majestically in it. Sophie weed killed her way down a quarter of the drive. "You remember a great deal more than you let on," she accused Percival, while he refilled her can. What did the witch really want with you? Why did she bring you into the shop with her that time?" "She wanted to find out about Howl," Percival said. "Howl," said Sophie. "But you didn't know him, did you?" "No, but I must have known something. It had to do with the curse she'd put on him," Percival explained. "But I've no idea what it was. She took it, you see, after we came to the shop. I feel bad about that. I was trying to stop her knowing, because a curse is an evil thing, and I did it by thinking about Letty. Letty was just in my head. I don't know how I knew her, because Letty said she'd never seen me when I went up to Upper Folding, but I knew all about her. Even so, that when the witch made me tell her about Letty, I said she kept a hat shop in Market Shipping. So the witch went there to teach us both a lesson. And you were there. She thought you were Letty. I was horrified because I didn't know Letty had a sister." So, it was never supposed to be Sophie that was cursed all along.
Yep.
So, somehow, in the jumble of Percival's mind, because we now know that he is a Frankenperson.
Yeah.
So, somehow he knew about Letty. The witch was looking for Letty, although I don't know exactly why. Something about the curse.
Mhm.
Um, but so it was never supposed to be Sophie. Sophie was kind of wrong place, wrong time.
Yeah. Literally wrong
So
place, wrong time.
yeah, I was like, oh, like that's interesting. Sophie picked up the can and weed killer generously. Yep, wishing the weeds were the witch, and she turned you into a dog straight after that. Just outside the town, said Percival. As soon as I'd let her know what she wanted, she opened the carriage door and said, Off you run, I'll call you when I need you. And I ran, because I could feel some sort of spell following me. It caught up just as got to a farm, and the people there saw me change into a dog and thought I was a werewolf and tried to kill me. I had to bite one to get away, but I couldn't get rid of the stick, and it stuck in the hedge when I tried to get through it. Or tried to get through. So, that was very interesting. The stick.
Mhm.
It says, but I couldn't get rid of the stick, and it stuck in the hedge when I tried to get through. So, I'm thinking, like, from what I was thinking,
Uh-huh.
so the stick was a part of him. He ran away. It got stuck. Somebody might have found said stick because
Yeah.
I feel like it's connected to the scarecrow.
Didn't she has a stick though that she had found.
Well, she has the walking stick. So it was
Yeah.
either, I was like, it's either part of the scarecrow or her walking stick.
Good point, good point.
So I'm like, I don't know like which it's connected to, but there was a stick connected to this dog at some point. I don't know how. Like, where was this stick? Like,
Curious. Hold on. I'm gonna do some digging back towards the start to see if I can find the stick.
okay, while you're doing that, I will just
Continue. Yeah.
continue on a little
Go ahead,
bit.
go ahead.
Sophie Weed killed her way down another curve of the drive as she listened. Then you went to Mrs. Fairfax's. Yes, I was looking for Letty. They were both very kind to me, Percival said, even though they'd never seen me before, and Wizard Howl kept visiting to court Letty. Letty didn't want him, and she asked me to bite him to get rid of him, until Howl began asking about you, and Sophie narrowly missed weed killing her shoes. Since the gravel was smoking where the stuff met it, it was probably just as well. What? He said, I know someone called Sophie who looks a little like you. And Letty said, That's my sister, without thinking. Percival said, and she got terribly worried then, particularly as Howl went on asking about her sister. Letty said she could have bitten her tongue off. The day you came there, she was being nice to Howl in order to find out how he knew you. Howl said you were an old woman, and Mrs. Fairfax said she'd seen you. Letty cried and cried. She said something terrible has happened to Sophie, and the worst of it is she'll think she's safe from Howl. Sophie's too kind herself to see how heartless Howl is. And she was so upset that I managed to turn into a man long enough to say I'd go and keep an eye on you. So Howl was not there to court Letty for part of it. He was
Mhm.
asking about Sophie.
Yeah.
I love that part. She's like, what? Why was he asking about me? You can hear and feel her panic. Like, why was he asking about me? He was supposed to be there, like romancing my sister. Because that's what she had in her head the whole time. That Howl was
Yeah.
just there trying to like her sister, and now she's like, oh, he was talking about me.
Yep. Also, I found it. Sophie's walking stick was the stick that was attached to the dog that she freed from the hedge at the start. So she
Oh,
freed him. It's on page 39. She freed the dog. And then took the stick that was in the hedge that was attached to the dog.
okay.
Yep.
So there we go.
Come to full circle.
See, everything is connected, and it's
Yep.
brilliant.
It is. It's great.
Sophie spread weed killer in a great smoking arc. Bother, Letty. It's very kind of her, and I love her dearly for it. I've been quite worried about her, but I do not need a watchdog. Yes, you do, said Percival. Or you did. I arrived far too late. Sophie swung around, weed killer and all. Percival had to leap into the grass and run for his life behind the nearest tree. The grass died in a long brown swath behind him as he ran. Curses everyone, Sophie cried out. I'm I've done with a lot of you. She dumped the smoking watering can in the middle of the drive and marched off through the weeds towards the stone gateway. Too late, she muttered as she marched. What nonsense! Howl's not only heartless, he's impossible. Besides, I am an old woman. But she could not deny that something had been wrong ever since moving the cat, or ever since the castle moved, or even before that. And it seemed to tie up with the way Sophie seemed so mysteriously unable to face either of her sisters. And all the things I told the king are true, she went on. She was going to march 7 leagues on her own feet and not come back. Show everyone. Who cared that that poor Mrs. Pentstemon had relied on Sophie to stop Howl from going to the bad. Sophie was a failure anyway, and it came from being the eldest, and Mrs. Pentstemon had thought Sophie was Howl's loving old mother anyway, hadn't she? Or had she? Uneasily, Sophie realized that a lady whose trained eye could detect a charm sewn into a suit could surely even more easily detect a stronger magic with the stronger magic of the witch's spell. Oh, confound that gray and scarlet suit, Sophie said. I refuse to believe that I was the one who got caught with it. The trouble was the blue and silver suit seemed to have worked just the same. So she's trying to cast blame on like anything else, and she's like, darn the red and scarlet suit.
Anything else other than just the fact that she actually likes him.
Yep, yep. Because and we know for a fact the blue and silver suit is not charmed in the same way, but she said that
Yeah.
it had the same effect. So she's blaming the suit still for
Yep.
why she's having stirrings about Howl. Mm, she stumped a few steps further. Anyway, she said with great relief, Howl doesn't like me. That is her coup de grace of just like that is the end all be all. She's like, even after all these things, and darn that stupid suit, even though it's not the suit's fault. Anyway, Howl doesn't like me.
Mm-hmm.
That is her saving grace, is the fact that she says Howl doesn't like her.
Yep.
This reassuring thought would have been enough to keep Sophie walking all night, had not a sudden familiar uneasiness swept over her. Her ears had caught a distinct tuck, tuck, tuck. She looked sharply under the low sun, and there, on the road which wound away behind the stone gate, was a distant figure with outstretched arms, hopping, hopping. Sophie picked up her skirts, whirled around, and sped back the way she had come. Dust and gravel flew around her in clouds. Percival was standing forlornly in the drive beside the bucket and the watering can. Sophie seized him and dragged him behind the nearest trees. Is something wrong? He said. Quite. It's that dreaded scarecrow again, Sophie gasped, she shut her eyes. We're not here, she said. You can't find us. Go away. Go away. Fast, fast, fast. But why? Said Percival. Shut up! Not here, not here, not here, Sophie said desperately.
Poor Sophie's
She op-
panicking, man. She's terrified.
I don't get why she's like so horrified. Like it's no scarier than the dog who's actually a man, who's actually a
Yeah.
Frankenstein creature. That's way creepier than the hopping scarecrow.
Yep.
Just saying. In my humble opinion,
Oh
it's
yeah.
far scarier.
I've never really thought the scarecrow was that scary. Like, I feel like the dog man is disturbing.
Yeah, the dog man's like way, way, way worse.
Yeah.
Uh, Sophie said desperately. She opened one eye. The scarecrow, almost between the gateposts, was standing still, swaying uncertainly. That's right, Sophie said. We're not here. Go away fast. Twice as fast. 3 times as fast. 10 times as fast. Go away! And the scarecrow hesitantly swayed round on its stick and began to hop back up the road. After the first few hops, it was going in giant leaps, faster and faster, just as Sophie had told it to. Sophie hardly breathed and did not let go of Percival's sleeve until the scarecrow was out of sight. What's wrong with it? Said Percival. Why didn't you want it? Sophie shuddered. Since the scarecrow was out on the road, she did not dare leave now. She picked up the watering can and stumped back to the mansion. A fluttering caught her eye as she went. She looked up at the building. The flutter was from long white curtains blowing from an open French window beyond the statues of the terrace. The statues were now clean white stone, and she could see curtains at most of the windows and glass too. The shutters were now folded properly beside them, newly painted white. Not a green stain or a blistered mark. The new blister marked the new creamy plaster of the house front. The house door was a masterpiece of black paint and gold scroll work, centering on a gilded lion with a ring in its mouth for a door knocker. Ha! Said Sophie. She resisted the temptation to go in through the open window and explore. That was what Howl wanted her to do. She marched straight to the front door, seized the gold doorknob, and threw the door open with a crash. Michael and Howl were at the bench, hastily dismantling a spell. Part of it must have been to change the mansion, but the rest, as Sophie well knew, had to be a listening in spell of some kind. As Sophie stormed in, both their faces shot nervously round towards her. Caspar instantly plunged down under his logs. Keep behind me, Michael, said Howl. Eavesdropper! Sophie shouted. Snooper! What's wrong? Said Howl. Do you want the shutters black and gold too? So they listened. They listened to everything. Howl's only thing was, do you want the shutters black and gold too? Oh, if she was mad before, she is enraged now. You barefaced, Sophie stuttered. That wasn't the only thing you heard. You how long have you known I am under a spell, said Howl. Well no. I told him, said Michael, lurking nervously round Howl. My Letty. You! Sophie shrieked. The other Letty let the cat out of the bag too, Howl said quickly. You knew she did. And Mrs. Fairfax talked a great deal that day. There was a time when everyone seemed to be telling me, even Caspar did when I asked him. But do you honestly think I don't know my own business well enough not to spot a strong spell like that when I see it? I had several goes at taking it off you when you weren't looking, but nothing seems to work. I took you to Mrs. Pentstemon, hoping she could do something, but she evidently couldn't. I came to the conclusion that you liked being in disguise. Disguise! Sophie yelled. Okay, so let's unwrap what he said. So, I mean, she turns on Michael fast, but
Yeah.
then Howl's just like, wait. He's like, the other Letty let the cat. And notice the other Letty. So now they know there's two Lettys.
Yeah.
Um, and they've known probably for a while that there were two Lettys, but Sophie was like, no, nobody knows that one's not actually Letty, that one's Martha. Like she has been so in the dark and kept like I think she kept herself
Mhm.
oblivious for
I think
so
she
long.
did. She's been doing it the entire time, I think, because
Because
she doesn't want to accept being good enough for anything. You know what I mean? She's not good
right,
enough in
she's so,
her own eyes for Howl. She's not good enough to be like doing magic. She's not good enough to be anything other than the old lady that she's picturing herself to be.
I just don't know why she likes to be so miserable.
I don't either. But that's what she likes. So it's
But
what she's
like
kind of like accepted for herself, is what it seems like from the very start. She's just been like, I don't deserve to be like, you know, some
but it's
great
like
magical person. I don't deserve to be pretty. I don't deserve any of this. I only deserve like uh getting the curse put on me. I deserve like that kind of stuff. You know what I mean?
where does that come from aside from being the eldest of three? But
I
that's I
think
feel like
that's
another
it.
one of her excuses.
I feel like it is one of her excuses, but I feel like that's one that was just pushed into her mind so much growing up that she thinks that that's what it has to be. You know what I mean? And this is kind
But
of this entire story is literally her turning around for it, you know? So,
it's I think it goes to prove because now that we know about Sophie's magic and that she can speak things into existence, I think honestly most of this whole thing is her fault because the more she said it, the more it became true.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So she's
The more that she keeps saying, "I'm an old woman," and she had said that before too, where she was just, like, confirming, "I am an old woman," like, and they
yeah,
even italicized the "am." Like, she's speaking it to be an old woman. She's speaking it on
yeah,
herself, and that's what they're, gonna be pointing out. That's why he said he's has the conclusion that she likes being in a disguise. It's because she's speaking that on herself. She is literally just like, "This
yeah.
is
That's
my life. This is what I am. I just am an old woman." She doesn't wanna accept being anything else.
Yeah, that's literally the next part. Howell laughed at her. It must be, since you're doing it to yourself, he said. What a strange family you are. Is your name really Letty too? I love that.
Right?
So like
He's so
he
sarcastic.
tells
I
her
love
straight
it.
up. Yeah, he tells her straight up, like, you're doing this to yourself.
Yep.
And then like I wonder if he's met Martha at this point. I think he has.
Probably.
So yeah. He knows there's all these Lettys and he's like, is your name really Letty?
Yeah.
This was too much for Sophie. Percival edged nervously in just then, carrying a half full bucket of weed killer. Sophie dropped her can, seized the bucket from him, and threw it at Howl. Howl ducked. Michael dodged the bucket. The weed killer went up in a sheet of sizzling green flame from the floor to ceiling. The bucket clanged into the sink, where all the remaining flowers died instantly. Ow! Said Calcifer from under his log. That was strong. Howell carefully picked the skull up from under the smoking brown remains of the flowers and dried it off on one of his sleeves. Of course it was strong, he said. Sophie never does things by halves. The skull, as Howell wiped it, became bright new white, and the sleeve he was using developed a faded blue and silver patch. Howell set the skull on the bench and looked at his sleeve ruefully. I love how, in a way, like, he's always, like, sweetly kind of, like, complimenting Sophie,
Mhm.
like, even when he's upset or like when like with the whole mandrake thing, he's like, "You do have a touch, don't you?" Like, he's I feel like he's kind of in awe of like the fact that she created these random plants from just her own magic. And so I think he's kind of in awe of her, but like it's like Sophie never does things by halves.
Yep.
Like, you can tell he has this soft spot for her.
Oh,
And
absolutely.
she's like, "Curse his black heart."
He absolutely has soft spot for her. Absolutely. But he's not gonna admit it because he can't be honest.
He's a liar and she's in denial.
Yep.
Uh, Sophie had half a mind to stump straight out of the castle again and away down the drive, but there was that scarecrow. She settled for stumping to the chair instead, where she sat and fell into a deep sulk. I'm not going to speak to any of them, she thought. Sophie, Howell said, I did my best. Haven't you noticed that your aches and pains have been better lately? Or do you enjoy having those too? Sophie did not answer. Howell gave her up and turned to Percival. I'm glad to see that you have some brain after all, he said. You had me worried. I really don't remember very much, Percival said, but he stopped behaving like a half-wit. He picked up the guitar and tuned it. He had it sounding much nicer in seconds. My sorrow revealed, Howell said pathetically. I was born an unmusical Welshman. Did you tell Sophie all of it? Or do you really know, or, or do you really know what the witch was trying to find out? She wanted to know about Wales, said Percival. I thought that was it, Howell said soberly. Ah, well. He went away into the bathroom, where he was gone for the next 2 hours. During the time, Percival played a number of tunes on the guitar. So beforehand, he had the guitar and he was like awkwardly plucking the strings and stuff, making like horrible tunes. And now he's like
Yeah.
sitting there playing music for them.
Yep.
So yeah, it's kind of interesting how he's, you know, now dropped his
I
facade.
mean, he kind of got called out, so he's just like, okay, let's just might as well play. Like,
Right? Yeah, Percival played a number of tunes on the guitar in a slow, thoughtful way, as if he was teaching himself how to. When Michael crawled about the floor with the smoking rag, trying to get rid of the weed killer, I still can't believe she chucked it at him.
so funny.
Sophie sat in the chair and said not a word. Casper kept bobbing up and peeping at her, going down again under his logs. Howl came out of the bathroom with his suit glossy black and his hair glossy white, and a cloud of steam smelling of gentians? I'm assuming it's another flower.
Probably.
Uh, I may be back quite late, he said to Michael. It's going to be Midsummer Day after midnight, and the witch may well try something. So keep up all the defenses, and remember all I told you, please. All right, Michael said, putting the steaming remains of the rag in the sink. Howell turned to Percival. I think I know what's happened to you, he said. It's going to be a fair job sorting you out, but I'll have a go tomorrow after I get back. Hal went to the door and stopped with his hand on the knob. Sophie, are you still not talking to me? He asked miserably. Sophie knew Howell could sound unhappy in heaven if it suited him, and he had just used her to get information out of Percival. No, she snarled. Howell sighed and went out. Sophie looked up and saw the knob was pointing black down. That does it, she thought. I don't care if it is Midsummer Day tomorrow. I'm leaving. She's still so horribly jealous. She can't see what's right in front of her face. She
Yep.
can't see she can't see any of it, and she thinks because it's blacked down that he's going to see Miss Angorian, so now
Mhm.
she's extra pissed off again. So now she's just like, I'm leaving. It's like, I don't want to play anymore. I'm going
I
home.
mean, she clearly just thinks that like Howl was using her, right? And whenever she wants to think that Howl actually likes her, but then it's just like, oh no, he just used me to get information. Of course he doesn't actually like me. Like she's still totally in denial about everything. And so I can understand her anger with it, but she's so blindsided by her
N-
liking of Howl that she's just not looking at anything else going on.
Notice though how he nobody speaks to the part where Sophie said that Howell doesn't like her. Like, of all the things, let's see. Because her shock about hearing Percival say that Howell was asking. Howell conveniently decides to ignore the fact that Percival told her, yeah, Howell was asking about you,
Yeah,
and like we were talking to your sister, and like he was talking to Mrs. Fairfax. Like they kind of skipped most of that.
yeah. And I think,
And
well,
the
it's mostly because I think of what like Sophie is more on about. She's not bringing up those facts. She's denying that those are happening. She's not believing that Howell is like going and looking for her. She's just gonna hold on to what she can of Howell doesn't like me. That's what she's trying to prove to herself still. You know?
well, I think the most interesting part, because and she says it out loud. I had to go back and make sure she actually did, but she says, "Oh, confound that gray and scarlet suit! I refuse to believe I was the one that was caught with it." I
Mm-hmm.
think he knows. I think he's got an inkling, but he never mentions it
Mm-hmm.
in their conversation with like Michael and everyone there.
Oh yeah.
He never talks about the suit. Never talks about her like being caught by it because I think he knows,
Yeah.
and
100%.
I think I like he's got a plan now, and knowing what he does, like what he's going to do right now, like he has it in his head that Sophie kind of likes him or has like some
Mm-hmm.
sort of inkling.
Oh,
But
he
doesn't say anything.
definitely knows. But of course he doesn't. He is still trying to lie. He's still in the curse. Like he's not I don't feel like he would go and try to be honest about his feelings towards her whenever he knows like everything that's going to happen still. He doesn't want her to like, he doesn't want her in danger. He cares about her. He's just
But
not going to admit it yet.
he doesn't poke fun like
No.
he does with some of the other things. Like that is studiously left unmentioned.
Yeah.
Okay, and now that brings us to chapter 20, in which Sophie finds further difficulties in leaving the castle. She's like, I'm out, peace out. And then she's like, but there's a scarecrow. And then there's more things. She's trying to run. Let's see. Midsummer Day dawned. About the same moment that it did, Howl crashed in through the door with such a noise that Sophie shot up in her cubbyhole, convinced that the witch was hot on his heels. They think there's they think so much about me that they always play without me. Howl bellowed. Sophie realized that he was only trying to sing Calcifer's saucepan song and lay down again, whereupon Howl fell over the chair and caught it with his foot in the stool so that it shot across the room. After that, he tried to go up the stairs, through the broom cupboard, and then the yard. This seemed to puzzle him a little, but finally he discovered the stairs, all except the bottom one, and he fell up them on his face. The whole castle shook. "What's the matter?" Sophie asked, sticking her head through the banister. "Rugby club reunion," Howl replied with a thick dignity. "I didn't know didn't know I used to fly up the wing for my university, did you, Miss Nose?" If you're trying to fly, you must have forgotten how," said Sophie. "I was born to strange sights," said Howl. Things invisible to see, and I was just on my way to bed when you interrupted me. I know where all past years are, and who cleft the devil's foot." "Go to bed, you fool," Calcifer said sleepily. "You're drunk." "Who, me?" said Howl. "I assure you, my friends, I am cone-souled Stober."
That
And
made
he
me laugh.
got up.
I had a double
I,
take when I read that, and I was like, "What?" Yeah,
I
no,
knew
he's
for a
drunk.
fact I knew for a fact I would have a hard time saying it out loud, so I was
Yeah.
like, "Let me one word at a time." But he drunk. He's really
Oh
drunk.
yeah, hella drunk.
So I'm wondering if all of this has to do with Howl, because I never quite understood the part of the curse that was where all I know where all past years are. So that's one part of the curse that I don't understand what it's talking about, but I'm almost wondering if that is a reference to Sophie because, like, she has more years than she actually like, she's what much older physically than she actually is.
Mhm.
So, that's the one part that confuses me.
I might look it
Tell
up
me
and
where
see
all
if I
past years
can.
are.
Let me do some research. I'll see if I can do some research on it as you continue.
Like, yeah,
I'm
that
gonna
part
search it on
confused
Google.
me. But yeah, so let's see. He's cone-souled Stober. He got up and stalked upstairs, feeling for the wall as if he thought it might escape him unless he kept touch with it. His bedroom door did escape him. "What a lie that was," Howell remarked as he walked into the wall. "My shining dishonesty will be the salvation of me." I love how even he's commenting on the fact that my dishonesty is going to save me. He walked into the wall several times more, and in several different places, before he discovered his bedroom door and crashed his way through it. Sophie could hear him falling about, saying that his bed was dodging. I can just imagine him trying to get into his bed, and he's like, "Quit moving!"
Right?
"He's not impossible," Sophie
That
said,
made me
and
laugh.
she
I ain't gonna
decided
lie. When I read that,
just imagined him drunkenly trying to, like, catch his bed, and he's like, "Quit moving!" She decided to leave at once. Unfortunately, the noise Howell made woke Michael up, and Percival, who was sleeping on the floor in Michael's room. Michael came downstairs, saying that they were so thoroughly awake that they might as well go out and gather the flowers for the midsummer garlands while the day was still cool. Sophie was not sorry to go out into the place of flowers for one last time. There was a warm, milky haze out there, filled with the scent and half-hidden colors. Sophie thumped along, testing the squishy ground with her stick and listening to the whirrings and twitterings of thousands of birds, feeling truly regretful. She stroked a moist satin lily and fingered one of the ragged purple flowers with long powdery stamens. She looked back at the tall black castle breasting the mist behind them. She sighed. "He made it much better," Percival remarked uh, as he put an armful of hibiscus into Michael's floating bath. "Who did?" said Michael. "Howl," said Percival. "There were only bushes at first, and they were quite small and dry."
thank you for
"You
the
remember
hydrate.
being here before?" Michael asked excitedly. He had by no means given up his idea that Percival might be Prince Justin. "I think I was here with the witch," Percival said doubtfully. They fetched 2 bathloads of flowers, Sophie noticed that when they came in the second time, Michael spun the knob over the door several times. That must have something to do with keeping the witch out. Then, of course, there was the midsummer garlands to make. That took a long time. Sophie meant to leave Michael and Percival to do that, but Michael was too busy asking Percival cunning questions, and Percival was very slow at his work. Sophie knew that what made Michael excited. There was a sort of air about Percival, as if he expected something to happen soon. It made Sophie wonder just how much uh, in the power of the witch he still was. She had to make most of the garlands. Any thoughts she might have had about staying and helping Howl against the witch vanished. Howl, who could have made up all the garlands just by waving his hand, was now snoring so loudly she could hear him right through in the shop. So she's mad still, and she was like, well, obviously she apparently had some thought that she might stay and help Howl, but she's like, nope. He could have done all this work with a wave of his hand, and he's sleeping. So just, uh, anything to say, like, screw you, Howl. They were so long making garlands that it was time to open the shop before they had finished. Michael fetched them bread and honey, and they ate while they dealt with the tremendous rush of customers. All through Midsummer Day, in the way of holidays, had turned out to be gray and chilly in uh, had turned out to be a gray and chilly day in market shipping. Half
Real
the
quick,
town
what
came
page are you
dressed
on? I had to go back to the other one and I've lost your page.
377.
377. Thank you. Okay.
Did you find out what it was?
I did. Well, at least assumed. It's not a direct answer, but I found out what people seem to assume what it is.
Okay.
So, the teach me where the past years are, it sounds like it's fulfilled whenever Howell showed Sophie his family home in Wales. Because he showed where
Oh,
his
so
past years were spent.
where he spent his past.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah. And then the devil's foot, the cleft of the devil's foot, is assumed that it was a reference. Well, this is spoiler for up to come, but a spoiler for a reference to Calcifer and his attachment to Howl's heart.
Okay.
That like the heart was cleft from Howl to become Calcifer's foot. That's what it is assumed.
Ah.
Yeah. Anyway,
Okay.
continue.
So they're making garlands. Hal snoring upstairs. So then she goes and she's talking to. Uh, they had taken so much money, Sophie thought, as she stole about, packing up some food and her old clothes in a bundle, that Michael's hoard under the hearthstone became 10 times the size. So she's talking about the money stash. Have you
Mhm.
come to talk to me? Asked Calcifer. In a moment, Sophie said, crossing the room with her bundle behind her back. She did not want Calcifer raising an outcry about the contract. She stretched out her hand to unhook her stick from the chair, and somebody knocked at the door. Sophie struck, with her hand stretched out, looking inquire. Uh, no, Sophie stuck, with her hand stretched out, looking inquiringly at Calcifer. It's the mansion door, said Calcifer, flesh and blood and harmless. The knocking came again. This always happens when I try to leave, Sophie thought. She turned the knob orange down and opened the book. Or, opened the door. I'm like staring at the book. I'm like, huh, yeah.
Open
And
the book.
opened the door. There was a carriage in the drive beyond the statues, pulled by a goodish pair of horses. Goodish. The heck? A goodish pair of horses. Okay. Sophie could see it
It's
round
choice
the
of a
edges.
word.
I'm like, some of the word choice. When was this book written again? Because like some of the word choices, I'm like,
um,
1986. Okay,
that
okay,
kind
a
of explains some of it.
little bit, yeah. Um, yeah, Sophie could see around the edges of a very large footman who had been doing the knocking. Mrs. Satcherville Smith to call upon the new occupant, said the footman. How very awkward, Sophie thought.
Hey,
It was the
Pender.
result of Howell's new paint and curtains. We're not at she began, But Miss Satchervelt, that's a weird word.
Yeah, a lot of the names here are weird. Let's just be really honest.
We're just gonna call her Miss Smith. But Mrs.
Yeah,
Smith swept the footman aside and came in. Wait with the carriage, Theobald, she said to the footman as she sailed past Sophie, folding her parasol. It was Fanny. Fanny look so this is her stepmom.
yeah.
Fanny looking wonder if I didn't know. Oh, like just to clarify, since she hasn't been mentioned in a very long
Yeah,
time.
she has been mentioned since the beginning, and I'm not gonna lie, when I was reading this, I'm like, Fanny, that name sounds familiar. Who is
Like, yeah,
Fanny? And then it clicked that it was her stepmom. Yeah.
yeah. Fanny looking wonderfully prosperous in cream silk. She was wearing a cream silk hat trimmed with roses, which Sophie remembered only too well. She remembered that she had said to it that said to that hat as she trimmed it, "You are going to have to marry money," and it was quite clear from the look of her that Fanny had. "Oh dear," said Fanny, looking around. "There must be some mistake. This is the servants' quarters." "Well, we're not quite moved in yet, madam," Sophie said, and wondered how Fanny would feel if she knew that the old hat shop was only just beyond the broom cupboard. Fanny turned round and gasped at Sophie. "Sophie!" she exclaimed. "Oh goodness gracious! Oh good gracious, child! What happened to you? You look about 90. Have you been very ill?" And to Sophie's surprise, Fanny threw aside her hat and parasol and all of her grand manner and flung her arms around Sophie and wept. "Oh, I didn't know what had happened to you," she sobbed. "I went to Martha and sent to Letty, and neither of them knew. They changed places, silly girls. Did you know? But nobody knew a thing about you. I have a reward out still. And here you are, working as a servant, when you could have been living in luxury up the hill with me and Mr. Smith." Sophie found she was crying as well. She hurriedly dropped her bundle and led Fanny to the chair. So, in the very beginning, there was some thought that Fanny didn't actually care much about Sophie.
Yeah.
And it's like very obvious now that she's seeing her that
Hmm.
she really, really loves Sophie. Like, she was
Yeah,
so
she
worried about
really
her. She
did
has
care
her
about
reward
her.
out.
Yeah.
Like, she really did care, and that's the first thing that happens. Like,
Hmm.
she instantly notices it's Sophie and instantly tells her, you know, like, she's asking her, "Have you been sick?" Like, she's like, "I didn't know
Hmm.
what happened." She reached out to the girls, found out that the girls had swapped places, and she put out a reward for her. Like, she actually really loves her,
Yeah.
which I kind of liked because I was like, I would feel really bad if Sophie, like, spent all of her younger years with this stepmom who really didn't care for her and was just like hoping to
Yeah.
get work out of her. But you're like, no, like she loves her.
Again, it's just Sophie being Sophie. She is denying it.
Yeah.
Like,
She'd rather believe the worst in everyone.
yeah.
Mm, yeah, so Sophie's crying. She hurriedly dropped her bundle and led Fanny to the chair. She pulled the stool up and sat beside Fanny, holding her hand. By this time, they were both laughing as well as crying. They were most powerfully glad to see one another. "It's a long story," Sophie said, after Fanny had asked her 6 times what had happened to her. "When I looked in the mirror and saw myself like this, it was such a shock that I sort of wandered away." "Overwork," said Fanny wretchedly. "How I've blamed myself." "You're a 90-year-old woman because I worked you too hard." I'm like, the logic's not logicking, but okay.
At least she feels bad. Shows the sympathy for
Uh,
her.
Yep. "Not really," said Sophie, "and you mustn't worry, because Wizard Howl took me in." "Wizard Howl!" exclaimed Fanny. "That wicked, wicked man! Has he done this to you? Where is he? Let me at him!"
I love that.
Like, this Fanny is such a stark contrast to the beginning, where it's
Yep.
like, even Martha was wondering, like, no, like, Fanny just kind of wants you here so that you can work the shop. Like,
Mhm.
even the sisters were like, I don't think she really, like, care, or at least Martha. And so Martha is Fanny's real daughter. Letty
Mhm.
and Sophie were already there. And so even Martha was saying about her own mother, like, nah, I think she just wants you here to work the shop. But you can see, like, how different things really are.
Yeah.
Like, everything from the beginning of the book, and, like, Howl being this evil wizard, and Sophie being this, "I'm just the eldest, I can't do anything." Like, all of these things from the beginning, I feel like the story or the picture painted in the very beginning, we're really realizing none of that was true.
Yeah.
Let's see. And Fanny's just, like, ready to throw a beat down on him. She seized her parasol and became very warlike. And became so very warlike that Sophie had to hold her down. Sophie did not care to think how Howl might react if Fanny woke him by stabbing him with her parasol. No,
Honestly,
no,
I'd
she
love
said.
to see it.
Right, I would love to see that confrontation. What do you think you did to my daughter?
It'd be so
Whose
funny.
daughter? Like, I just imagine this playing out. Just like she's just jabbing him with this parasol. Howl has been very kind to me, and this was true, Sophie realized. Howl showed his kindness rather strangely, but considering all Sophie had done to annoy him, he had been very good to her indeed. So who's being honest now?
Right?
Like, he's actually been really nice to her. Some old lady who just barged into his house.
Yep.
He's fed her, sheltered her, clothed her, taught her some about magic. Like,
Mhm.
yeah, he's been really nice. But they say he eats women alive, Fanny said, still struggling to get up. Sophie held down her waving parasol. He doesn't really, she said. Do listen. He's not wicked at all. There was a bit of fizz from the grate at this, where Calcifer was watching with some interest. He isn't, Sophie said, to Calcifer as much as to Fanny. In all that time I've been here, I've not seen him work a single evil spell, which, again, was true, she knew. Then I have to believe you, Fanny said, relaxing. Though I'm sure it must be your doing if he's reformed. You always did have a way with you, Sophie. You could stop Martha's tantrums when I couldn't do a thing with her, and I always said it was thanks to you that Letty only got uh, her own way half the time instead of all the time. But you should have told me where you were, love. It's so like obviously, yeah, if he's reformed, it's because Sophie was such a good influence on him. But like, it's funny that Sophie's and also trying to convince Calcifer that Howl isn't isn't
Yeah.
a bad guy.
I love
Um,
though that like they're adding after she's saying these things, like she knows it's true. She knows it's true, and they're repeating that. Because all this time she's just been saying he's wicked and horrible and all of these bad things and believing all these bad things. And this is like she's finally admitting the truth to herself. And she's like,
well,
he's
it's
not bad. She's
every
saying the
time
truth.
every time she was presented with something good that he did, she's like, "Oh, he's only trying to be manipulative," or
Yeah.
like she could see that he was doing a good thing, but she threw all these excuses and caveats on them.
Yeah.
Oh, he's only doing this to get what he wants. Oh, he's only doing this. But then even going back to I think the first time they're in Port Haven,
Hmm.
one of the places, he like there's a guy who's kind of poor and like can't afford like a super nice spell, but he's like, oh no, like here you go, here you go.
Yeah.
Like he was being super generous,
Yeah.
and it strikes her as like odd because she's like, no, Howl's evil. Why is he being nice?
Hmm.
So she's seen so many examples in the past of him being nice and him being a good guy, but she's always dismissed it, and now she can't.
Yeah.
Now that she's trying to convince other people of it, she can't deny it.
And I love it. I just love that it's like she has to finally admit that he is nice and he does do good. And I love that they just add, which again was true. She like I just love that they force that in that she's
The last
finally
two
admitting it.
chapters the last two chapters are forced honesty.
Yep.
Everyone's got to be honest with themselves.
Yep. I love it.
Um, okay, so Sophie knew she should have. She had taken Martha's view of Fanny. See, she had taken Martha's view of Fanny,
Hmm.
whole and entire, when she should have known Fanny better. She was ashamed. Fanny could not wait to tell Sophie about Mr. Sastravel Smith. She launched into a long and exciting account of how she met Mr. Smith the very week Sophie had left and married him before the week was out. Jeez, she doesn't move slow.
No, she does not.
But I like that they point out, and Sophie's very judgmental.
Yes, she
Like,
is.
she loves to heap judgment on
Mhm.
other people for their actions and whatnot. And then she realizes that she had never actually looked at Fanny as Fanny was. She
Yeah.
took what Martha was saying as the truth and let this sort of distance between them grow
And that's kind of what she
because
did with so many others. With Howl, she just let that the rumors of Howl in every sense skew her view, just like she
yes,
let it happen with Fanny and with so many others. Like, yeah.
yes. Sophie in the beginning was not one to actually really think for her own.
Mhm.
Like, she was very resigned to everything in her life. "Oh, I'm the oldest of 3. I'm never gonna do anything.
Mhm.
Oh, Howl's just some evil, heart-eating wizard. Oh, Fanny doesn't love me, she just wants me to work for her for free." Like,
Mhm.
she takes everything what people say, and she's just like, "Oh, I guess that's my life." Like I said,
Yeah.
she's like Eeyore. She's
Yeah.
just this misery cloud.
She really is, and that's kind of what I really love about these last like 2 chapters is that she's finally like realizing and coming to her senses about it and admitting stuff on her own. You know what I mean?
She's pulling her head out of her butt.
Yep, exactly.
Mm.
Exactly.
Sophie watched her as she talked. Being old gave her an entirely new view of Fanny. And that's the I see through the eyes of the old woman. Like, Sophie, you are not actually the old woman. But now she's like, in my sage years, I can now see differently.
Yeah.
She was a lady who was still young and pretty, and she had found the hat shop as boring as Sophie did, but she had stuck with it and done her best, both with the shop and with the 3 girls, until Mr. Hatter died. Then she had suddenly been afraid that she was just like Sophie, old with no reason and nothing to show for it. So I'm assuming because Sophie is. How old did we decide she was? She's
Sophie?
like, what, 19? Something like
Something
that?
like that, yeah.
So I don't think Fanny is that old. She's probably in like I would say mid 40s, late
Yeah.
50s, or mid 40s to late 40s, or like
Yeah.
early 50s.
Yeah.
Like, so I mean, that's about as old as my parents are.
Mhm.
Like, that's still young.
Yeah.
And maybe even younger, because I don't think Martha's like what, 16? So yeah, I would say I would probably put her right, like, maybe early 40s,
Mhm.
maybe a bit younger. And so, like, she's got life left to live, and to be a young widow, young-ish
Yeah.
widow, with a shop and 3 girls, and she was trying to make the best of it. When she sent the other 2 sisters away, she was trying to give them freedom, trying to
Mhm.
give them the best she could. And Sophie, because Sophie was never showed initiative about anything, she probably assumed, well, if I leave Sophie where she's at, she'll probably be okay, and this is probably the only way that I can get her to thrive and live.
Mhm.
Because Sophie didn't show any ambition to go and do anything, so that's probably what she thought was best. So now she's seeing her stepmom in a whole different way.
Yeah.
Uh, And then, with you not being there to pass it on to, there seemed to be no reason at all not to sell the shop, Fanny was saying, when there was a clatter of feet in the broom cupboard. Michael came through, saying, "We've shut the shop, and look who's here." He was holding Martha's hand. Martha was thinner and fairer, and almost looked like herself again. She let go of Michael and rushed to Sophie, shouting, "Sophie, you should have told me!" while she flung her arms around her. And she flung her arms around Fanny, just as if she had never said all those things about her. Like, that's really like a mother-daughter, like,
Martha was a
one minute
teenager. Like
oh, yeah. Martha was just an angsty teenager going, "My
Yep.
mom sucks."
Yeah.
Because what was it initially, she wanted Martha to go with Mrs. Fairfax and study
Mhm.
magic, and beautiful, beautiful Letty was supposed to be the one who worked at the bakery.
Yeah.
And so, like, she was probably just mad. Just like, "My
Yeah.
mom sucks. My mom wants me to go do something I don't want to do."
Yeah, pretty much.
And it's funny now that Sophie's realizing this, like, and it because it mostly comes from Sophie as the narrator in a way.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, it's just as if she had never said all those things about her. She's like, girls. But this was not all. Letty and Mrs. Fairfax came through the cupboard after Martha, carrying a hamper between them, and after them came Percival, who was looking livelier than Sophie had ever seen him. We came over by carrier at first light, Mrs. Fairfax said, and we brought, bless me, it's Fanny. Because remember, she and Fanny were friends.
Mhm.
She dropped her end of the hamper and ran to hug Fanny. Letty dropped her end and ran to hug Sophie. And Sophie doesn't think it's weird that all of a sudden all of her family is showing up.
Yeah, she's just accepting it.
Because that is not one, not two, but three random things. Because if
Yep.
it's like, oh, like, Fanny came by saying that she was, going to announce herself to the new neighbors.
Mhm.
So it's like, that's one coincidence. And then Michael brings Martha. That is a hefty second coincidence.
Yep.
And then Mrs. Fairfax and Letty. That is three boulder sized coincidences.
Yep.
And Sophie is none the wiser because I don't think Sophie pays much attention to much of anything.
No, she really doesn't. It all goes over her
It's
head.
it's weird to see a main character as oblivious as her.
Yeah.
Because about Howl, about Miss Angorian, like she doesn't question anything, and that's really bad.
Yeah. Yeah. Howell does point it out later too, but
Yeah.
it's just Sophie.
Yep. In fact, there was such a general hugging and exclaiming and shouting that Sophie thought it was a marvel Howl did not wake up, but she could hear him snoring even through the shouting. I shall have to leave this evening, she thought. She was too glad to see everyone to consider going before that. Letty was very fond of Percival, while Michael carried the hamper to the bench and unpacked cold chickens and wine and honey puddings from it. Letty hung to Percival's arm in an owner-like way that Sophie could not quite approve of, and made him tell her all that he remembered. Percival did not seem to mind. Letty looked so lovely that did not blame him. He just arrived and kept turning into a man and then into different dogs and insisting he knew me, Letty said to Sophie. I'd never seen him before, but it didn't matter. She patted Percival's shoulder as if he were still a dog. See, the whole Percival thing just gives me the ick.
Nah, same. I don't know
Like,
why. But yeah, no, same.
because it's weird. Like
It
everyone's
is.
relationship with him is so strange, and you know that he's a Franken man now. So you're like, what is
Yeah,
going? Like the whole thing just gives the ick.
it does. It's just disturbing. It's just
And
all
then
disturbing.
she's like the owner like way that she's with him, and like she's patting him like a dog. I'm like, ew, like
Yeah.
he's a dude now.
Yeah, it's
Like
weird.
the magicians are kind of like the wizards are weird, but like that's weird.
That's a different level of weird.
Uh, but you had met Prince Justin, Sophia said. Oh, yes, Letty said offhandedly. Mind you, he was in disguise in a green uniform, but it was obviously him. He was so smooth and courtly, even when he was annoyed about finding spells. Um, I had to make him up two lots because they kept showing the wizard Suleiman was somewhere between us and Market Chipping. He swore that couldn't be true, and all the time I was doing them, he kept interrupting me and calling me sweet lady in a sarcastic sort of way. That reminds me so much of how Howl and Sophie are.
Yeah,
That like kind of sarcasm, they're little snipping at each other.
yeah. I could totally see that.
Mm. And asking me who I was and where my family lived and how old I was. I thought it was chic. I'd rather have Wizard Howl, and that's saying something. By this time, everyone was milling about, eating chicken and sipping wine. Calcifer seemed to be shy. He had gone down to Green Flickers, and nobody seemed to notice him. Sophie wanted him to meet Letty. She tried to coax him out. Is that really the demon who has charge of Howl's life? Letty said, looking down at the green flickers rather disbelievingly. Sophie looked up to assure Letty that Calcifer was real and saw Miss Angorian standing by the door, looking shy and uncertain. Oh, do excuse me. I've come at a bad time, haven't I? How does she keep getting in?
Right?
Miss Angorian said. I just wanted to talk to Howl. Sophie stood up, not quite sure what to do. She was ashamed of the way she had driven Miss Angorian out before. It was only because she knew Howl was courting Miss Angorian. She admits she only treated her poorly
She was
because Howl was.
jealous.
Yeah, like she straight up says that she only was mean because she knew Howl was courting her. And on the other hand, that did not mean she had to like her. She's like, I know I was being mean, but I still have to like you.
Yep.
Michael took things out of Sophie's hands by greeting Miss Angorian with a beaming smile and a shout of welcome. Howl's asleep at the moment, he said. Come here and have a glass of wine while you wait. How kind, said Miss Angorian. But it was plain that Miss Angorian was not happy. She refused the wine and wandered nervously about, nibbling a leg of chicken. The room was full of people who all knew one another very well, and she was the outsider. Fanny did not help by turning from non-stop talk with Mrs. Fairfax and saying, "What peculiar clothes!" Martha did not help either. She said she had seen how admiringly Michael greeted Miss Angorian. So now Martha's all jealous and she's like, it runs in the family.
Yep. Easy
She went and
jealous.
made sure that she went and made sure that Michael did not talk to anyone but herself and Sophie. Yeah, it runs deep in their family.
Yep.
And Letty ignored Miss Angorian and went to sit on the stairs with Percival. Miss Angorian seemed rather quickly to decide that she had had enough. Sophie saw her at the door, trying to open it. She hurried over, feeling very guilty. After all, Miss Angorian must have felt very strongly about Howl to have come here at all. Please don't go yet, Sophie said. I'll go and wake Howl up. Oh no, you mustn't do that, Miss Angorian said, smiling nervously. I've got the day off, and I'm quite happy to wait. I thought I'd go and explore outside. It's rather stuffy in here with the funny green fire burning. This seemed to Sophie a perfect way to get rid of Miss Angorian without really getting rid of her. She politely opened the door for her. Somehow, maybe it had to do with the defenses Hal had asked Michael to keep up. The knob had got turned round to purple down. Outside was a misty blaze of sun and the drifting banks of red and purple flowers. So that's kind of she notices it's strange that the knob turned purple
Hmm.
down instead of black down.
But she doesn't question it. She's just like,
She,
whatever.
nope, nope, oblivious. What
Chooses to
gorgeous
ignore.
yep. What gorgeous rhododendrons, Miss Angorian exclaimed in her huskiest and most throbbing voice. I must look. She sprang eagerly down into the marshy grass. Don't go towards the southeast, Sophie called after her. What? Like, don't go towards the southeast in a land that she's not familiar with. I'd be like, which way is southeast?
Right?
But nope, nobody questions. Sophie called after her. The castle was drifting off sideways. Miss Angorian and doesn't think, oh yeah, now she's seeing the castle from the outside. Might want to explain that. Nope, absolutely not.
Not a single question is asked here. Just keep going.
Miss Angorian buried her face, her beautiful face, distinctly, her beautiful face, in a cluster of white flowers. I won't go far at all, she said. How gracious. Good gracious, Fanny said, coming up behind Sophie. Whatever happened to my carriage? Sophie explained as far as she could, but Fanny was so worried that Sophie had to turn the door orange side down and open it to show the mansion drive in a much grayer day, where the footman and Fanny's coachman were sitting on the roof of the carriage, eating cold sausage and playing cards. Only then would Fanny believe that her carriage had not been mysteriously spirited away. So, like, that's the thing. Fanny
Hmm.
questions.
But
Fanny
Miss
questions
Centaurian
why
doesn't.
it's different.
Yep.
Yeah, and Miss Angorian never once questioned. Fanny's like, where's my carriage?
Y'all.
And it's like, oh, let me explain it to you so you know distinctly. There's something amiss.
Even with Martha, or wait, sorry, no, Miss Fairfax pointing out the peculiar clothes on Miss
Mhm.
Angorian, but Miss Angorian isn't questioning any of them at all, even slightly.
Nope.
Not a single
Like,
question. It's
there's
hella sus.
so many red flags that just get, like,
Yeah,
passed by.
yeah.
Like, the fact that, once again, she's having to explain this to Fanny, how this door works.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, and now we get to the interesting part. Sophie was trying to explain, without really knowing herself, how one door could open on several different places when Calcifer surged from his logs, roaring. Howl! He roared, filling the chimney with blue flame. Howl! Howl Jenkins! The witch has found your sister's family. There were two violent thumps overhead. Howell's bedroom door crashed, and Howell came tearing downstairs. Letty and Percival were hurled out of his way. Fanny screamed faintly at the sight of him. Howell's hair was like a haystack, and there were red rims around his eyes. Got me on my weak flank, blast her, he shouted, as he shot across the room with his black sleeves flying. I was afraid she would. Thanks, Calcifer. He shoved Fanny aside and hurled open the door. Sophie heard the door bang behind Howl as she hobbled upstairs. She knew it was nosy, but she had to see what happened. As she hobbled through Howell's bedroom, she heard everyone else following her. What a filthy room, Fanny exclaimed. So- his dust and cobweb filled room.
Mm-hmm.
Sophie looked out the window. It was drizzling in in the neat garden. The swing, and so just for anybody, remember Howell's bedroom window shows the view of his sister's yard.
Yes. It's way that he always keeps his eye on, like, his family. It
Yeah.
sees into Wales, basically.
Yeah. So that's why Sophie went up to the window.
Yeah.
The swing was hung with drops. The witch's waving mane of red hair was all dewed with it. She stood leaning against the swing, tall and commanding, with her red robes, beckoning and beckoning again. Howell's niece Mary was shuffling over the wet grass towards the witch. She did not look as if she wanted to go, but she seemed to have no choice. Behind her, Howell's nephew Neil was shuffling towards the witch, even more slowly, glowering in his most ferocious way. And Howell's sister Megan was behind the two children. Sophie could see Megan's arms gesturing and Megan's mouth opening and shutting. She was clearly giving the witch a piece of her mind, but she was being drawn towards the witch too. Howell burst onto the lawn. He had not bothered to alter his clothes. He did not bother to do any magic. He just charged straight at the witch. The witch made a grab for Mary, but Mary was still too far away. Howell got to Mary first, slung her behind him, and charged on, and the witch ran. She ran like a cat with a dog after it, across the lawn and over the neat fence, in a flurry of flame-colored robes, with Howell chasing like a dog, a foot or so behind and closing. The witch vanished over the fence with a red blur. Howell went after her in a black blur with trailing sleeves. Um, then the fence hid both of them from sight. I hope he catches her, said Martha. The little girl's crying. Down below, Megan put her arm around Mary and took both children indoors. There was no knowing what had happened to Howl and the witch. Letty and Percival and Martha and Michael went back downstairs. Fanny and Mrs. Fairfax were transfixed with disgust at the state of Howell's bedroom. Look at those spiders, Mrs. Fairfax said. Not the spiders.
Leave the spiders alone. They didn't do nothing.
Come on, Artemis. Sorry, Artemis is not where she's supposed to be. Go.
No, you're good.
Yeah. Yeah, you. Little beast. Okay. And the dust on those curtains, said Fanny. Annabelle, I saw some brooms in the passage you came through. So, I guess her name is Annabelle Fairfax. Let's get them, said Mrs. Fairfax. I'll pin that dress up for you, Fanny, and we'll get to work. I can't bear a room to be in this state. The one room that Sophie wasn't allowed to clean. Oh, poor Howl, Sophie thought. He does love those spiders. She hovered on the stairs, wondering how to stop Mrs. Fairfax and Fanny. From downstairs, Michael called, Sophie! We're going to look around the mansion. Do you want to come? So, like, the Witch of the Waste is after his family, and Michael's just like, yeah, we're gonna go look around the mansion. You in?
Yeah. A little odd, but
That seemed the ideal thing to stop the two ladies from cleaning. Sophie called to Fanny and hobbled hurriedly downstairs. Letty and Percival were already opening the door. Letty had not listened when Sophie explained it to Fanny, and it was clear that Percival did not understand either. Sophie saw they were opening it purple down by mistake. They got it open as Sophie hobbled across the room to put them right. The scarecrow loomed in the doorway against the flowers. They opened the door, and who's there? It's the scarecrow.
Of course.
Shut it! Sophie screamed. She saw what had happened. She had actually helped the scarecrow last night by telling it to go 10 times as fast. It had simply sped to the castle entrance and tried to get in there, but Miss Angorian was out there. Sophie wondered if she was laying in the bushes in a dead faint. No, don't, she said weakly. No one was attending to her anyway. Letty's face was the color of Fanny's dress. She was clutching Martha. Percival was standing, staring, and Michael was trying to catch the skull, which was yakkering its teeth so hard that it was threatening to fall off the bench and take the wine bottle with it. And the skull seemed to have a strange effect on the guitar, too. It was giving out long, humming twangs. I'm not going to try to make the sound of the
Yeah,
guitar
no, that's
twangs.
fair. I don't. You can
Just,
imagine it.
just so you guys know,
Guitar twang.
there's like, what is it, onomatopoeia? There are words trying to describe the sound of the guitar.
Yeah.
Not gonna do it. Casper flamed up the chimney again. The thing is speaking, he said to Sophie. It's saying it means no harm. I think it's speaking the truth. It is waiting for your permission to come in. Certainly the scarecrow was just standing there. It was not trying to barge inside as it had before. And Calcifer must have trusted it. He had stopped the castle moving. Sophie looked at the turnip face with all the flustering rags, or fluttering. It was not so frightening after all. So it takes her being up close and personal with the scarecrow to realize that it's not terrifying.
Mm-hmm.
It was not so frightening after all. She had once had a fellow feeling for it. She rather suspected that she had made it into a convenient excuse for not leaving the castle. There you go! Sophie making excuses again.
Yep.
She realized it's not really that scary. She was using it as an excuse to not leave the castle
Yep.
because she had really wanted to stay. Because she's in love with Howl! she's having to admit everything. So
Yep.
while the curse is about Howl being honest, she really is having to come to terms with and be honest
Yeah.
going forward. Now there was no point. Sophie had to leave anyway. Howl preferred Miss Angorian. No! She's still like she's
She's
just like,
still
I
in
want to
denial.
stay, but I can't. Like, she's trying to find any sort of way to get out of staying.
Yeah.
Please come in, she said, a little croakingly. Said the guitar. The scarecrow surged into the room with one powerful sideways hop. It stood swinging about. Sorry.
I get-
Uh, on its one leg, as if it was looking for something. The smell of flowers it had brought in with it did not hide its own smell of dust and rotting turnip. Ugh. The skull yackered under Michael's fingers again. The scarecrow spun round, gladly, and fell sideways towards it. Michael made one attempt to rescue the skull, and then got hastily out of the way. For as the scarecrow fell across the bench, there came the fizzling jolt of strong magic, and the skull melted into the scarecrow's turnip head. This is like horror. This is like children's
Right.
horror story right here.
Yeah.
It seemed to get inside the turnip and fill it out. There was now a strong suggestion of a rather craggly face on the turnip. The trouble was, it was on the back of the scarecrow. the scare, uh,
It's so
uh.
creepy.
The scarecrow gave a wooden scramble, hopped upright uncertainly, and then swiftly spun its body round so that the front of it was under the craggly turnip face. Slowly it eased its outstretched arms down to its side. Now I can speak. So now it's not, its arms aren't stuck out anymore. Now it's
Yeah.
like standing there and like,
Yeah.
Yeah, now I can speak, it said in a somewhat mushy voice. I may faint, Fanny announced on the stairs. Nonsense, Mrs. Fairfax said behind Fanny. The thing's only a magician's golem. It has to do what it was sent to do. They're quite harmless. Letty, all the same, looked ready to faint. And so Letty, who's also studying magic, is just like, uh, but the only one who did faint was Percival. He flopped to the floor quite quietly and lay curled up as if he were asleep. Letty, in spite of her terror, ran towards him, only to back away as the scarecrow gave another hop and stood itself in front of Percival. This is one of the parts I was sent to find, it said in its mushy voice. It swung on its stick until it was facing Sophie. I must thank you, it said. My skull was far away, and I ran out of strength before I reached it. I would have lain in that hedge forever if you had not come and talked life into me. It swiveled to Mrs. Fairfax and then to Letty. I thank you both, too, it said. Who sent you? What are you supposed to do? Sophie said. The scarecrow swung about uncertainly. More than this, there are still parts missing. Everyone waited, most of them too shaken to speak, while the scarecrow rotated this way and that, seemingly thinking. Uh, what is Percival a part of? Sophie said. Let it collect itself, said Calcifer. No one's asked it to explain itself before. He suddenly stopped speaking and shrank until barely a green flame showed. Michael and Sophie exchanged alarmed glances. Then a new voice out of nowhere. It was enlarged and muffled, as if it were speaking in a box, but it was unmistakably the voice of the witch. Michael Fisher, it said, tell your master Howl that he fell for my decoy. I now have the woman called Lily Angorian in my fortress in the waste. Tell him I will only let her go if he comes himself to fetch her. Is that clear, Michael Fisher? The scarecrow whirled round and hopped for the open door. Oh no, Michael cried out. Stop it! The witch must have sent it so that she could get in here. So,
On to the
there
final
was a
chapter.
lot.
There was a
That was
lot
a
there.
lot. So, the witch was in Wales
Mm-hmm.
with Howell's family, and now supposedly she's trying to get into the castle.
Mm-hmm.
There's a whole lot going on. Sorry, my voice is
Now
my
you're good.
voice
You're
is
good.
giving out. I've been talking for 2.5 hours straight.
Yeah, you're good.
But yeah, there was so much in that chapter.
Mm-hmm.
So the scarecrow is part of the Franken person because he's missing, and the skull was too.
Yeah.
So there's the skull, there's the scarecrow, there's Percival. They're all parts of the Franken person.
Yeah. Which is just, it's just weird.
And there's still more
It's
pieces.
just creepy. I just don't
It
like it.
is. It is.
It's
It
so
really is.
unsettling to think about.
It gives le creeps.
Yeah.
Okay. So
And
that
real,
brings us to
I was gonna say,
what was
real
that?
quick before we go on to the next chapter, I just want to grab a drink real quick. So give me one moment. I'll be right back.
Okay, give me a minute too. Oh, and I will also be
All
right
right.
back.
We will be
So
right back, you
everyone,
guys.
give us just a minute.
We'll be right back. Okay, I am back. Doesn't sound like Rose is back yet. Hi, chat. This final chapter has so much in it. Everything happened in this final chapter. Everything. It was so much stuffed into one chapter. It was crazy. Hey, Dante. What is that emote? What is that? Oh my gosh. Amazing. 10 out of 10.
Okay, I'm back. What did I miss?
Welcome back. Nothing. I was talking to chat, telling them there's a lot in this last chapter, and also looking at a very
There's
funny little emote. That's it. I
there
needed to
is
get a
so much.
soda. I'm still like EP, and so I just needed something that would give me some energy, and I felt like my soda would give me energy, so I got a soda.
Girl, it is 5:46 your time. You do not need caffeine.
I do. Well, I actually don't know how much caffeine's in this, but I need something. I need something to keep me awake right now.
My throat's just all. Okay, so we are on the final chapter, chapter 21, in which a contract is concluded before witnesses. Most people ran after the scarecrow. Sophie ran the other way, through the broom cupboard, and into the shop, grabbing her stick as she went. This is my fault, she muttered. I have a genius for doing the wrong thing. I could have kept Miss Angorian indoors. I only needed to talk to her politely, poor thing. Howl may forgive me for a lot of things, but he's not going to forgive me for this in a hurry. Once again, I lost his girlfriend!
Uh,
In the flower shop, she hauled the 7 league boots out of the window display and emptied hibiscus, roses, and water out of them onto the floor. She unlocked the shop door and towed the wet boots out onto the crowded pavement. Excuse me, she said to various shoes and trailing sleeves, which were all walking in her way. She looked up at the sun, which was not easy to find in the cloudy gray sky. Let's see, southeast, that way. Excuse me, she said, clearing a small space for the boots among the holiday makers. She put them down, pointing the right way. Then she stepped into them and began to stride. Zip, 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 zip. There's a lot more of that.
yeah,
uh,
there's like, what is it?
one,
7,
two,
8,
three,
9,
four,
10, 11,
five,
12,
six.
13, 14 zips.
Yep.
14.
It was as quick as that, and even more blurred and breathless in both boots than in one. Because this is the first time she's worn both boots at the same time.
Yeah.
Because last time she had one and Michael had one, and they were kind of stumbling around each other.
Mm-hmm.
Sophie had brief glimpses between long double strides of the mansion down at the end of the valley, gleaming between trees, with Fanny's carriage at the door, of Brecon on a hillside, of a small river racing down into a green valley, of the same river sliding down in a much broader valley, of the same valley turned so wide it seemed endless, and the blue in the distance, and a towery pile far, far off that might have been Kingsbury, of the plain narrowing towards the mountain again, of a mountain which slanted so steeply under her boot that she stumbled in spite of her stick, which stumble brought her to the edge of a blue, deep misted gorge, with the top of the trees far below. I would be so worried about getting lost wearing these boots. I'd be
Right?
like, I'm never
I would
going to like find
so
my way
get
home.
lost. I would so get lost.
As she landed on crumbly yellow sand, she dug her stick in and looked carefully around. Behind her right shoulder, some miles off, a white, steamy mist also hid the mountains just as that she had just zipped through. Below the mist was was a band of dark green. Sophie nodded. She, though she could not see the moving castle this far away, she was sure the mist marked the place of the flowers. She took another careful stride. Zip. It was fearsomely hot. The clay yellow sand stretched in all directions now, shimmering in the heat. Rocks lay about in a messy way. I'm actually glad that they did describe the waste, because I'm like, I want to know. I want to know what it looks
Honestly,
like.
same, yeah. Same. It was
The
very
only growing
interesting.
things The only growing things were occasionally dismal gray bushes. The mountain looked like clouds coming up on the horizon. If this is the waste, Sophie said, with the sweat running all in her wrinkles, then I feel sorry for the witch having to live here. She took another stride. The wind of it did not cool her down at all. The rocks and bushes were the same, but the sand was grayer, and the mountains seemed to have sunk down into the sky.
I liked that description. I don't know why it was just an interesting
Yeah.
description that they did there for that one.
Sophie peered into the quivering gray glare ahead, where she thought she could see something rather high and rather higher than rock. She took one more stride. Now it was like an oven, but there was a peculiar shaped pile about a quarter of a mile off, standing on the slight rise uh, in the rock littered land. It was a fantastical shape of twisted little towers, rising to one main tower that pointed slightly askew, like a naughty old finger, not with a K, Knotty. Sophie climbed out of the boots. It was too hot to carry anything so heavy, so she trudged off to investigate with only her stick. The thing seemed to be made of the yellowish gray grit. Okay. I was like, her stick's made of this stuff? No, it's the whatever the building is.
Yeah.
Yeah, the thing seemed to be made of the yellow gray grit of the waste. At first, Sophie wondered if it might be some strange kind of ant's nest, but as she got nearer, she could see that it was as if something had fused together thousands of grainy yellow flower pots into a tapering heap. She grinned. The moving castle had often struck her as being remarkably like the inside of a chimney. This building was really a collection of chimney pots. It had to be a fire demon's work. As Sophie panted up the rise, there was suddenly no doubt that this was the witch's fortress. Two orange figures came out of the dark space at the bottom and stood waiting for her. She recognized the witch's two page boys. Hot and breathless as she was, she tried to speak to them politely, to show she had no quarrel with them. Good afternoon, she said. Could you imagine going up to a witch's fortress, seeing her henchmen, and just being like, Good afternoon?
Right? That's exactly what I was gonna mention. I just loved how she was just like, terrifying witch that Howl is like fighting, possibly dying at, walks up to her literal fortress, and she is just, afternoon there, people. I'm just gonna head on in now. Don't mind me. Like, it's so casual. I love it.
They just gave her sulky looks. One bowed and held out his hand, pointing towards the misshapen dark archway between the bent columns of chimney pots. Sophie shrugged and followed him inside. The other page walked after her, and of course the entrance vanished as soon as she was through. Sophie shrugged again. She'd have to deal with that problem when she came back. If the door disappeared behind me, I'd be freaking the F out. I'd be like, oh
Yeah,
no, I'm stuck, I'm lost.
but this is Sophie we're talking about. Let's be real. she doesn't
Sweet,
really.
oblivious
She
Sophie.
doesn't think things through, and she's not gonna think this through until it's a problem that she has to face directly. This is a
Yep.
later problem.
She rearranged her lace shawl, straightening her draggled? Yeah, draggled skirts, and walked forward. It was a little like going through the castle door with the knob locked down. There was a moment of nothingness, followed by a murky light. The light came from greenish yellow flames that burned and flickered all around, but in a shadowy way which gave her no heat and very little light either. When Sophie looked at them, the flames were never where she was looking, but always to the side. That was the way of magic. She's like, weird fire. Guess it's just magic. Sophie shrugged again and followed the page this way and that among skinny pillars of the same chimney pot kind as the rest of the building. At length, the pages led her to some sort of central den, or maybe it was just a space between pillars. Sophie was confused by then. The fortress seemed enormous, though she suspected it was deceptive, just as the castle was. The witch was standing there waiting. Again, it was hard to tell how Sophie knew, except that it could not be anyone else. The witch was hugely tall and skinny now, and her hair was fair, in a rope-like pigtail over one bony shoulder. She wore a white dress. When Sophie walked straight up to her, brandishing her stick, the witch backed away. I am not to be threatened, the witch said, sounding tired and frail. Then give me Miss Angorian and you won't be, said Sophie. I'll take her and go away. The witch backed away further, gesturing with both hands, and the page boys melted into sticky orange blobs which rose into the air and flew towards Sophie. Yucky, get off, Sophie cried, beating at them with her stick. The orange blobs did not seem to care for her stick. They dodged it and wove about. So this stick, the stick that came from the dog,
Yep.
it's obviously got some sort of magical properties to it.
Yeah.
Because, like, the witch, as soon as Sophie holds the stick out, is like, "Don't threaten me."
Yeah,
So,
immediately the stick was just
it's an
something of
important stick.
importance. Very important stick.
She she was just thinking she had got the better of them when she found herself glued to a chimney pot pillar by them. Orange sticky stuff stranded between her ankles, and when she tried to move and plucked at her white hair painfully. I'd almost rather have gotten green slime, Sophie said. I hope those weren't real boys. Only emanations, said the witch. Let me go, said Sophie. No, said the witch. She turned away and seemed to lose interest in Sophie entirely. Sophie began to fear that, as usual, she had made a mess of things. The sticky stuff seemed to be getting harder and more elastic every second. When she tried to move, it snapped her back against the pottery pillar. Where's Miss Angorian? She said. You will not find her, said the witch. We will wait until Howl comes. He's not coming, said Sophie. He's got more sense, and your curse hasn't worked anyway. Or hasn't all worked anyway. It will, said the witch, smiling slightly. Now that you have fallen for our deception and come here, Howl will have to be honest for once. 'Cause she knows, 'cause she's not dumb. She made another gesture towards the murky flames this time, and a sort of throne trundled out from between two pillars and stopped in front of the witch. There was a man sitting in it, wearing a green uniform and long, shiny boots. Who was wearing the green uniform? It's Prince.
Of course.
Sophie thought he was
Just
asleep
like
at
how
first, with it.
was it Letty who had seen him in the green suit?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The man sat. Wait. Sophie thought he was asleep at first with his head out of sight sideways, but the witch gestured again. The man sat up straight, and he had no head on his shoulders at all. Sophie realized she was looking at all that was left of Prince Justin. If I was Fanny, Sophie said, I'd threaten to faint. Put his head back on at once. He looks terrible like that. I would sure think that somebody would look terrible beheaded, but just me. I disposed of both heads months ago, said the witch. I sold Wizard Suleiman's skull when I sold his guitar. So, Sophie was right. The skull that they had was Prince Suleiman's, or the
Mm-hmm.
Wizard Suleiman's skull. Yeah, I sold his skull when I sold his guitar. Prince Justin's head is walking around somewhere with the other leftover parts. This body is a perfect mixture of Prince Justin and the Wizard Suleiman. It's waiting for Howl's head to make our perfect human.
Creepy. It's so creepy.
It's so creepy. When we have Howl's head, we shall have the new king of Ingery, and I shall rule as queen. You're mad, Sophie said. You've no right to make jigsaws of people, and I shouldn't think Howl's head will do a thing you want. It'll slither out somehow. I love how
I love
even if
that.
he's just a head, even if he's been beheaded, even his head won't listen to you.
Right?
So much is his distaste of rules.
Also, I was
Mm.
curious about the stick, so I looked it up to be like,
Mhm.
was there really any specific thing? It doesn't sound like there's any specific thing for like why the stick is magic, other than it just being her like outlet for her magic, because she would just like how she would absentmindedly talk to everything. The stick was
Mhm.
always around for it. So a lot of her absent-minded talking and a lot of her just like general words that she would say to the stick, like "you're a good stick" and that kind of stuff, slowly turned it more or less into like a magic wand as opposed to just a
Yeah.
stick. So that's
And that's kind of
basically
what I
what it
was
is.
assuming.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. There's not like a specific part or anything for it. It just she just chalked life into it just like she did with everything else with her magic. So, but I was
Yep.
curious if there was like a moment or if it was just like a compilation of everything, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, anyway,
Mm. Howl will do exactly as we say, the witch said with a sly, secretive smile. We shall control his fire demon. Sophie realized she was very scared indeed. She knew she had made a mess of things now. Where is Miss Angorian? She said, waving her stick. The witch did not like Sophie to wave her stick. She stepped backwards. I'm very tired, she said. You people keep spoiling my plans. First, Wizard Suleiman will would not come near the wastes, so I had to threaten Princess Valeria in order to make the king order him out here. Then when he came, he grew trees. Then the king would not let Prince Justin follow Suleiman for months, and when he did follow, the silly fool went north somewhere for some reason, and I had to use all of my arts to get him here. Howl has caused even more trouble. He got away once. I've had to use a curse to bring him in, and while I was finding out enough about him to lay the curse, you got into what was left of Suleiman's brain and caused me more trouble. And now, when I bring you here, you wave your stick and argue. I have worked very hard for this moment, and I am not to be argued with. She turned away and wandered off into the murk. Sophie stared after the tall white figure moving among the dim flames. I think her age has caught up with her, she thought. She's crazy. I must get loose and rescue Miss Angorian from her somehow. Remembering the orange stuff had avoided her stick just as the witch had, Sophie reached back over her shoulder with her stick and wagged it back and forth where the sticky stuff met the pottery pillar. Get out of it, she said. Let me go. Her hair dragged painfully, but stringy orange bits began to fly away sideways. Sophie wagged the stick harder. She had to work her head and shoulders loose when there came a or she had worked her head and shoulders loose when there came
Kitty.
a dull
Sorry.
booming sound.
I
What,
heard the kitty
baby?
meow.
What,
There's this
baby?
cute meow distraction.
What? What, Artemis?
Oh, the kitty is such a cute meow.
What, Miss? That's Artemis.
Artemis
What,
has
baby?
such a cute meow. Oh my
Oh,
gosh. My cats are
hi,
like,
baby.
meh. They yell at me. That's such a
Hi,
cute
baby.
meow.
She's a little sweetheart.
Distraction. I'm sorry, I heard cat. I
No,
got
that's okay.
fully distracted by, by the meow.
Okay, let's see. Where was I?
We were at her hair dragged painfully. The stringy orange bits began to fly away sideways, so if we whacked her stick harder,
Oh,
that's
okay.
yeah.
Yeah, she had worked her head and shoulders loose when there came a dull booming sound. The pale flames wavered, and the pillar behind Sophie shook. Then, with a crash like 1,000 tea sets falling downstairs, a piece of the fortress wall blew out. Light blinded through the long, jagged hole, and a figure came leaping through the opening. Sophie turned eagerly, hoping it was Howl. See, hoping it was Howl. But the black outline
Kitty.
had only one leg, and it was the scarecrow again. The witch gave a howl of rage and rushed towards it with her fair pigtail flying and her bony arms stretched out. The scarecrow leaped at her. There was another violent bang, and the two of them were wrapped in a magic cloud, like the cloud over Port Haven when Howl and the witch had fought. The cloud battered this way and that, filling the dusty air with shrieks and booms. Sophie's hair frizzled. The cloud was only yards away, going this way and that. They like to say going this way and that
Yeah.
uh, among pottery pillars, and the break in the wall was quite near too. As Sophie thought, the fortress was really not big. Every time the cloud moved along the blinding white gap, she could see through it and see two skinny figures battling in its midst. She stared and kept wagging her stick behind her back. She was loose all except her legs when the cloud screamed across in front of the light one more time. Sophie saw another person leap through the gap behind it. This one had flying black sleeves. It was Howl. Sophie could see the outline of him clearly, standing with his arms folded, watching the battle. For a moment it looked as if he were going to let the witch and the scarecrow get on with it. Then the long sleeves flapped as Howl raised his arms. Above the screaming and booming, Howl's voice shouted one strange, long word, and a long roll of thunder came with it. The scarecrow and witch both jolted. Claps of sound rang
Kitty.
around the pottery pillars, echo after echo, and each echo carried some of the cloud of magic away with it. It vanished in wisps and swirled away in murky eddies. When it had become the thinnest white haze, the tall figure with the pigtail began to totter. The witch seemed to fold in on herself, thinner and whiter than ever. Finally, as the haze faded clean away, she fell in a heap with a small clatter. As the million soft echoes died, Howl and the Scarecrow were left thoroughly facing one another across a pile of bones. Good, Sophie thought. She slashed her leg free and went across to get the headless figure. Went across to the headless figure on the throne. Quit biting my buttons, child. She's laying on my chest, and my shirt has buttons on it, and she's trying to eat them.
Aw. Aw. Chaos kitty.
Yep. So she slashed her legs free and went across to the headless figure in the throne. It was getting on her nerves. No, my friend, Howl said to the Scarecrow. The Scarecrow had hopped right along the bones and was pushing them this way and that with its leg. No, you won't find her heart here. Her fire demon will have got that. I think it's had the upper hand of her for a long time now. Sad, really. As Sophie took off her shawl and arranged it decently across Prince Justin's headless shoulders, Howl said, I think the rest of what you're looking for is over here. He walked towards the throne with the Scarecrow hopping behind him. Typical, he said to Sophie. I break my neck to get here, and I find you peacefully tidying up.
I love it.
Sophie looked up at him. As she had feared, the heart. Okay, so this part goes back to early days.
Mhm.
So Sophie looked up at him. As she had feared, the hard black and white daylight coming through the broken wall showed her that Howl had not bothered to shave or tidy his hair. His eyes were still red-rimmed, and his black sleeves were torn in several places. There was not much to choose between Howl and the Scarecrow. Oh dear, Sophie thought. He must love Miss Angorian very much. I came for Miss Angorian, she explained. So that goes back to I think who did Calcifer say it?
No, Michael
Because
hadn't.
okay, because every time he goes out to see a woman, he gets like super dolled up. He takes like
Yeah.
2 hours to get ready, and they're like, "Yeah, that's how we know that he's not like really interested." Because
Mhm.
he only does this when he's trying to win them over. And they're like, the moment he doesn't get ready, like the moment he goes and he's all like haggard and everything, that's when they'll know that, he's in love with this person.
Mhm.
So she's like, he's in love with Miss Angorian
Yep.
because Sophie's blind. And I thought I arranged for your family to visit you, and it would keep you quiet for once. So Howl is the one who invited all of her family there
Yep.
to get her to lay low, which of course it's Sophie, so she didn't do it.
Of course not.
Yep, Howl said disgustedly. But no. Here the Scarecrow hopped in front of Sophie. I was sent by Wizard Suleiman, it said in its mushy voice. I was guarding his bushes from the birds in the waste when the witch caught him. He cast all his magic he could spare on me and ordered me to come to his rescue, but the witch had taken him to pieces by then, and the pieces were in various places. It had been a hard task, or it has been a hard task. If he had not come and talked life into me, I would have failed. So the scarecrow was not a golem for the witch, it was a golem for Suleiman.
Yes.
It was answering the question Sophie had asked. I had asked it before they both rushed off. So when Prince Justin ordered finding spells, they must have kept pointing to you, she said. Why is that? To me, you're his skull, said the Scarecrow. Between us, we are the best parts of him. And Percival is made up of Wizard Suleiman and Prince Justin, Sophie said. She was not sure Letty was going to like this. The Scarecrow nodded its craggy turnip face. Both parts told me that the witch and her fire demon were no longer together, and I could not defeat the witch on her own. Or I could defeat the witch on her own, it said. I thank you for giving me 10 times my former speed. Howl waved it aside. Bring that body with you to the castle, he said. I'll sort you out there. Sophie and I have to get back before the fire demon finds a way of getting inside my defenses. He took a hold of Sophie's skinny wrist. Come on, where are those 7-league boots? Sophie hung back. But Miss Angorian, don't you understand? Howl said, dragging at her. Miss Angorian is the fire demon. Bwomp, bwomp, bwomp.
Honestly, though I was sus of Miss Angorian with all of this, that was still a shock to me whenever I read that. I was
Right?
not expecting Miss Angorian to be the fire demon for the witch, like,
You're like,
at all. It makes
"What?"
so much sense,
It makes
but I was
it
not prepared.
everything becomes so much more clear, like,
Yep.
why she wasn't questioning the portals or any of
Yo,
the magic stuff. It all makes
it
so
all
much
makes sense.
sense.
Even her saying, "Don't tell," like, was don't say to Wizard Howl that I was here. All the things she was
Yep.
clearly hiding it. Like, yep, it all makes sense.
Yep, every bit of it.
Yep.
If he gets inside the castle, then Calcifer's had it, and so have I. Sophie put both hands over her mouth. I knew I'd make a mess of it, she said. It's been twice already, but it went out. Oh Lord, groaned Howl. Did it touch anything? So, yeah, she's like, oh, she's been there twice. And he's like, oh.
Yep.
Oh yeah, touch anything. The guitar, Sophie admitted. Then it's still there, said Howl. Come on. He pulled Sophie over to the smashed wall. Follow us carefully, he shouted back to the scarecrow. I'm going to have to raise a wind. Oh, oh, we get we
We
get
get the
to the
wind.
part.
We get the
Yeah.
wind.
Oh gosh, where is it? Where is it? I'm trying to find the exact wording because it said, uh, yeah, and find what wind serves to advance an honest mind. So he's summoning wind.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm going to have to raise a wind. No time to look for those boots, he said to Sophie as they climbed over the jagged edges into the hot sunlight. Just run, and keep running, or I won't be able to move you. Sophie helped herself along with her stick and managed to break into a hobbling run, stumbling among the stones. Howl ran beside her, pulling her. Wind leapt up, whistling, then roaring, hot and gritty, and the gray sand climbed around them in a storm that pinged on the pottery fortress. By that time, they were not running, but skimming forward in a sort of slow motion lope. The stony ground sped past underneath. Dust and grit thundered around them, high overhead and streaming far away behind. It was very noisy and not at all comfortable, but the waste rocketed past. It's not Calcifer's fault, Sophie yelled. I told him not to say. He wouldn't anyway, Howl shouted back. I knew he'd never give away a fellow fire demon. He was always my weakest flank. I thought Wales was, Sophie screamed. No, I left that deliberately, Howl bellowed. I knew I'd be angry enough to stop her if she tried anything there. I had to leave her an opening, see? The only chance I had of coming at Prince Justin was to use that curse she'd put on me to get near her. So you were going to rescue the prince, Sophie shouted. Why did you pretend to run away? To deceive the witch? Not likely, Hal yelled. I'm a coward. Only way I can do something this frightening is to tell myself I'm not doing it. Oh dear, Sophie thought, looking around at the swirling grit. He is being honest, and this is a wind. The last bit of the curse had come true. The hot grit in her. Okay. What was the curse supposed to do? That's what I'm curious about.
I can look it up.
Was it was it just to bring him to the witch? Cuz like that's a lot of stuff to happen in order just to have him come near her. But like what is the original
I
intent
don't
of the
remember.
spell? I don't think it ever says. But let's see. The hot grit hit her thunderously, and Howl's grip hurt. Keep running, Howl bawled. You'll get hurt at this speed. Sophie gasped and made her legs work again. She could see the mountains clearly now, and the line of green below that was the flower bushes. Even though yellow sand kept swirling in the way, the mountains seemed to grow, and the green line rushed towards them until it was a hedge high. All my flanks are weak, Howl shouted. I was relying on Solomon being alive, and then when all that seemed to be left of him was Percival, I was so scared I had to go out and get drunk. And then you go and play into the witch's hand. Ha 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 ha. So he's talking about his weak flanks. So
Mhm.
Solomon was a weak flank. And then when all that was left was Percival, he was scared and he had to go get drunk. And then he says, and then you had to go and play into the witch's hand. He's like practically just admitting right then and there that she is one of his weak flanks.
Mhm.
I'm the eldest, Sophie shrieked. I'm a failure. Garbage, Howl shouted. You just never stop to think. Very true. Very, very true. Um, Howl was slowing down. Dust kicked up around them in dense clouds. Sophie only knew the bushes were quite near because she could hear the rush and rattling of the gritty wind in the leaves. They plunged in among them with a crash, still going so fast that Howl had to swerve and drag Sophie in a long, skimming run across a lake. And you're too nice, he added, above the lap lap of the water and the patter of the sand on the water lily leaves. I was relying on you being too jealous to let that demon near the place. So he knew the whole time, and every time he was going to um, Wales, I think he was hoping to make her jealous,
Yeah.
and he was counting on her being too jealous to let the demon in,
Yep.
and so he knows all of it.
Yep. He knows. Also, okay, I kind of found it. Uh,
Okay,
so the reason Hal was cursed by the witch was because he dumped her. Like they
well,
had a
yeah.
relationship in the past, and it was just that. So the curse was that he'd be forced to return to her upon falling in love. So
Oh,
whenever he
well,
would
that makes sense.
fall in love at last, he would end up returning back to the witch, and she would then take his heart, which was in love, to use it on her more or less. She was just upset she got dumped.
That's a long way. Dismembering two people, trying to Frankenstein three people. That's a lot.
That's a
That's a
lot
lot.
of cursing and deceiving and everything just because you got dumped. Like,
Yeah, that's those are
yeah.
some big feelings.
Yep. So anyway.
Uh, they hit the steamy shore at a slow run. The bushes on either side of the green lane thrashed and heaved as they passed, throwing birds and petals into a whirlwind behind them. Could you just imagine being some poor little bird and all of a sudden you're just like thrown into the air?
Right.
What baby? Let's see. The castle was drifting swiftly down the lane toward them, and its smoke streaming back in the wind. Howell slowed down enough to crash the door open and shot Sophie and himself inside. Michael, he shouted. It wasn't me who let the scarecrow in, Michael said guiltily. Everything
Immediately.
seemed to be normal. Sophie was surprised to discover what a short time she had really been away. Someone had pulled her bed out from under the stairs, and Percival was laying on it, still unconscious. Letty and Martha and Michael were gathered around it. Overhead, Sophie could hear Mrs. Fairfax and Fanny's voices, Mrs. Fairfax's voice and Fanny's combined with ominous swishing and thumping that suggested Howl spiders were having a hard time. Yeah, they were still cleaning the room.
Yep.
Uh, Howell let go of Sophie and dived towards the guitar. Before he could touch it, it burst with a long, melodious boom. Strings flailed, splinters of wood showered Howell. He was forced to back away with one tattered sleeve over his face, and Miss Angorian was suddenly standing beside the hearth, smiling. Howell had been right. She must have been in the guitar all this time, waiting for her moment. Your witch is dead, Howell said to her. Isn't that too bad? Miss Angorian said, quite unconcerned. Now I can make myself a new human, who'll be much better. This curse is fulfilled. I can lay hands on your heart now. And she reached down into the grate and plucked Calcifer out of it. Calcifer wobbled on top of her clenched fist, looking terrified. Nobody move, Miss Angorian said warningly. Nobody dared stir. Howl stood stillest of all. Help, Calcifer said weakly. I could just imagine it. Like I've seen the movie, so I know
Yeah.
what Calcifer's voice sounds like according to the movie. And it's just like so
Uh,
sad. Just help. Nobody can help you, said Miss Angorian. You are going to help me control my new human. Let me show you. I have I have only to tighten my grip. Her hand that was holding Calcifer squeezed until its knuckles showed pale yellow. House I almost said Halcifer. Howl and Calcifer both screamed. Calcifer beat this way and that in agony. Howl's face turned bluish, and he crashed to the floor like a tree falling. Where he lay unconscious was Percival. Sophie did not think he was breathing. Miss Angorian was astonished. She stared at Howl. "He's faking," she said. "No, he's not!" Calcifer screamed, twisting into a writhing spiral shape. "His heart's really quite soft. Let go." And I love that.
And so
Howl's
cute.
got a soft heart.
Yeah.
Sophie raised her stick slowly and gently. This time, she thought for an instant before she acted. So she's learning
She's
now. She's like,
thinking.
let me think about this.
She's got a thought.
"Stick," she muttered. "Beat Miss Angorian, but don't hurt anyone else." Then she swung the stick and hit Miss Angorian's tight knuckles in the yeah, and hit Miss Angorian's tight knuckles the biggest crack she could. Miss Angorian let out a squealing hiss like a wet log burning, and dropped Calcifer. Poor Calcifer rolled helplessly onto the floor, flaming sideways across the flagstones, and roaring huskily with terror. Miss Angorian raised a foot to stamp at him. Sophie had let go of her stick to dive to rescue Calcifer. Her stick, to her surprise, hit Miss Angorian again on its own, and again, and again. But of course it would, Sophie thought. She had talked life into that stick. So that's the thing. Sophie keeps talking things into.
Yeah.
Like, quit making things alive that probably shouldn't be alive.
But she's like, I feel like this is her just like accepting it now. She's like, yep, this is my
Yeah.
magic. I can do this now. Like, that's what that sentence kind of says to me. Like, yeah, she just believes it now.
Yeah, but of course it would, she thought. She had talked life into that stick. Mrs. Penstemon had told her so. Miss Angorian hissed and staggered. Sophie stood up, holding Calcifer, to find her stick just like, drubbing, drubbing away at Miss Angorian and smoking with the heat of her. By contrast, Calcifer did not seem very hot. He was milky blue with shock. Sophie could feel that dark lump of Howl's heart was only beating very faintly between her fingers. So did it take until that long to realize that, like, it's actually Howl's heart?
I think so. Yeah.
And that's why I have everything flagged.
Yeah.
Like all these references to Howl's heart. And I was like, oh, they were pretty blatantly obvious with it.
No, honestly, if I go back and read it, I bet I could 100% see it now.
Well, and that's the
Like,
thing is I didn't realize until I was rereading it
yeah.
because there are at least 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 before I got lazy and stopped marking them
Yeah.
references to the contract and his heart.
I'd like to go back and reread it just to find all of those myself, like as a fun little Easter egg, you know what I mean?
Yeah. It had to be Howl's heart she was holding. He had given it away to Calcifer as part of his contract to keep Calcifer alive. He must have been very sorry for Calcifer, but all the same, what a silly thing to do. Could you imagine, like, holding your boyfriend's heart in your hand?
Right? It'd
I'd
be
be freaked out.
crazy. Be freaking out. Especially with him
Fanny and
like
Mrs.
dying. I mean,
Oh, right. Like, he's just, like, laying on the floor, like, oh my gosh. I'm like, I'd be freaked out.
yeah.
So many Franken people.
Yep.
Fanny and Mrs. Fairfax hurried through the door from the stairs, carrying brooms. The sight of them seemed to convince Miss Angorian that she had failed. She ran for the door, with Sophie's stick hovering over her, still clouding at her. "Stop her!" Sophie shouted. "Don't let her get out. Guard all the doors." Everybody raced to obey. Mrs. Fairfax put herself in the broom cupboard with her broom raised. Fanny stood on the stairs. Letty jumped up and guarded the door to the yard. Martha stood by the bathroom. Michael ran for the castle door. But Percival leapt off the bed and ran to the door too. Ran for the door too. His face was white and his eyes were shut, but he ran even faster than Michael. He got there first, and he opened the door. Oh no. With Calcifer so helpless, the castle had stopped moving. Miss Angorian saw the bushes standing still in the haze outside and raced to the door with inhuman speed. Before she reached it, it was blocked by the scarecrow. Looming up, with Prince Justin hanging across its shoulders, still draped in Sophie's lace shawl. It spread its stick arms across the door, barring the way. Miss Angorian backed away from it. So the scarecrow was the Wizard Suleiman's golem.
Hmm.
The Percival's body is still, I believe, following her orders.
Yeah.
Mm, let's see. Yeah, so Miss Angorian backed away from it. The stick beating at her was on fire now. Its metal end was glowing. Sophie realized it could not last much longer. Luckily, Miss Angorian hated it so much that she seized hold of Michael and dragged him in its way. The stick had been told not to hurt Michael. It hovered, flaming. Martha dashed up and tried to pull Michael away. The stick had to avoid her, too. Sophie had gotten it wrong as usual. There was no time to waste. Calcifer, Sophie said, I shall have to break your contract. Will it kill you? It would if anyone else broke it, Calcifer said hoarsely. That's why I asked you to do it. I could tell that you could talk life into things. Look what you did for the scarecrow and the skull. Then have another 1,000 years, Sophie said, and wailed very hard as she said it, in case just talking was not enough. This had been worrying her very much. She took hold of Calcifer and carefully nipped him off the black lump, just as she would nip a dead bud off a stalk. Calcifer whirled loose and hovered by her shoulder as a blue teardrop. I feel so light, he said. Then it dawned on him what had happened. I'm free, he shouted. He whirled to the chimney and plunged up it, out of sight. I'm free. Sophie heard him shout overhead as he came out through the chimney pot of the hat shop. So when Howl caught him
Hmm.
when he was a falling star, so the fire demon was bound just like that to, I'm assuming, the actual like star or meteorite.
Yeah.
And the only way to keep it alive was he offered his heart to it, which
Hmm.
bound them together with their power. And so now he's free.
Yeah.
Like he's not bound to any objects or anything.
Yeah. He's just free, totally on his own to go around.
Mhm. Sophie turned to Howl with almost dead black lump, feeling doubtful in spite of her hurry. She had to get this right, and uh, she was not sure how you did. Well, here goes, she said, kneeling down beside Howl. She carefully put the black lump on his chest, in the leftish sort of place she had felt hers in when it troubled her, and pushed. Go in, she told it. Get in there and work. And she pushed and pushed. The heart began to sink in and to beat more strongly as it went. Sophie tried to ignore the flames and scuffles by the door and to keep up a steady, firm pressure. Her hair kept getting in her way. It fell across her face in reddish fair hanks, but she tried to ignore that too. Ah, so it's not white granny hair anymore.
Hmm. Hmm.
I love the subtle ways that they're
Right?
just like, oh. Um, she pushed. The heart went in. As soon as it had disappeared, Howl stirred about. He gave a loud groan and rolled over onto his face. Hell's teeth, he said. I've got a hangover. No, you hit your head on the floor, Sophie said. Howl rose up on his hands and knees with a scramble. I can't stay, he said. I've got to rescue that fool Sophie.
So cute. I love
Ah,
it.
I'm here, Sophie said, shaking his shoulders. But so is Miss Angorian. Get him to do something about her, quickly. The stick was entirely flames by now. Martha's hair was frizzling. And it had dawned on Miss Angorian that the scarecrow would burn. She was maneuvering to get the hovering stick towards the doorway, or into the doorway. As usual, Sophie thought. I didn't think it through. Howell only needed to take one look. He stood up in a hurry, held out one hand, and spoke a sentence of those words that lost themselves in claps of thunder. Plaster fell from the ceiling. Everything trembled, but the stick vanished, and Howell stepped back with a small, hard, black thing in his hands. It could have been a lump of cinder, except it was the same shape as the thing that Sophie had just pushed into Howell's chest. Miss Angorian whined like a wet fire, and held out her arms imploringly. I'm afraid not, Howell said. You've had your time. By the look of this, you were trying to get a new heart, too. If you were going to take my heart, or you were going to take my heart and let Calcifer die, weren't you? He held the black thing between both palms and pushed his hands together. The witch's old heart crumbled into black sand and soot and nothing. Miss Angorian faded away as it crumbled, and as Howell opened his hands empty, the doorway was empty of Miss Angorian, too. Another thing happened as well. The moment Miss Angorian was gone, the scarecrow was no longer there either. If Sophie had cared to look, she would have seen two tall men standing in the doorway, smiling at one another. The one with the craggy face it had ginger hair. The one with the green uniform had vaguer features and a lace shawl draped round the shoulders of his uniform. But Howell turned to Sophie just then. "Gray doesn't really suit you," he said. "I thought that when I first saw you." "Calcifer's gone," Sophie said. "I had to break your contract." Howell looked a little sad, but he said, "We were both hoping you would. Neither of us wanted to end up like the witch and Miss Angorian. Would you call your hair ginger?" "Red gold," Sophie said. I don't know, like, they're just like, "Yep, this is happening."
It's so cute. Yep.
"Yeah, would you call your hair ginger?" "Red gold," Sophie said. Not much had changed about Howell that she could see, now that he had his heart back, except maybe that his eyes seemed a deeper color, more like eyes and less like glass marbles. "Unlike some people's," she said, "it's natural." "I've never seen why people put such a value on things being natural," Howell said, and Sophie knew then that he had scarcely changed at all. If Sophie had any attention to spare, she would have seen Prince Justin and Wizard Suleiman shaking hands and clapping one another delightedly on the back. "I'd better get back to my royal brother," Prince Justin said. He walked up to Fanny, as the most likely person, and made her a deep, courtly bow. "Am I addressing the lady of this house?" Not really," Fanny said, trying to hide her broom behind her back. "The lady of the house is Sophie." "Or will be shortly," Mrs. Fairfax said, beaming
I love
benevolently.
that. I love that. So cute.
I love that. "That's Sophie. Or will be." Howell said to Sophie, "I've been wondering all along if you would turn out to be that lovely girl I met on May Day. Why were you so scared then?" If Sophie had been attending, she would have seen Wizard Suleiman go up to Letty. Now that he was himself, it was clear that Wizard Suleiman was at least as strong-minded as Letty was. Letty looked quite nervous as Suleiman loomed craggily over her. It seemed to be the prince's memory I had of you, and not my own at all," he said. "That's quite all right," Letty said bravely. "It was a mistake." "But it wasn't," protested Wizard Suleiman. "Would you let me take you on as a pupil at least?" Letty went fiery red at this, and did not seem to know what to say. That seemed to Sophie to be Letty's problem. She had her own. Howell said, "I think we ought to live happily ever after," and she thought he meant it. Sophie knew that living happily ever after with Howell would be a good deal more eventful than any story made it sound. Though she was determined to try. "It should be hair-raising," added Howell. "And you'll exploit me," said Sophie. "And then you'll cut up all my suits to teach me," said Howell. If Sophie or Howell had any attention to spare, they might have noticed that Prince Justin, Wizard Suleiman, and Mrs. Fairfax were all trying to speak to Howell, and that Fanny, Martha, and Letty were plucking at Sophie's sleeves, while Michael was dragging at Howell's jacket. "That was the neatest use of power I ever saw from anyone," Mrs. Fairfax said. "I wouldn't have known what to do with that creature, as I often say." "Sophie," said Letty, "I need your advice." "Wizard Howl," said Wizard Suleiman, "I must apologize for trying to bite you so often. In the normal way, I wouldn't dream of setting teeth in a fellow countryman." "Sophie, I think this gentleman is a prince," said Fanny. "Sir," said Prince Justin, "I believe I must thank you for rescuing me from the witch." "Sophie," said Martha, "the spell's off you. Did you hear?" But Sophie and Howell were holding one another's hands, and smiling, and quite unable to stop. "Don't bother me now," said Howell. "I only did it for money." "Liar," said Sophie. "I said," Michael shouted, "that Calcifer's come back." That did get Howell's attention, and Sophie's too. They looked at the grate, where, sure enough, the familiar blue face was flickering among the logs. "You didn't need to do that," said Howell. "I don't mind, as long as I can come and go," Calcifer said. "Besides, it's raining out there in market shipping."
So cute.
And that's the end of the book!
I loved it. Oh, I loved the ending
I was
so
hoping for a
much.
kiss. Not gonna lie. I was
Even
hoping for a
without the
kiss.
kiss, I was very happy with the ending. It like tied all the ends. It was very cute. I liked that even Calcifer came back. I loved all
Yep.
of it. It was very cute. Very, very cute.
I love this book. It's such a little like oddball,
It
but
is.
it's so good.
It's so good. It's so well put together and thought out, you can tell. Like tying everything together throughout the story. It's really well done.
Yeah, there's so much I really love. Like if I was a teacher, I would
Mhm.
have my students read this book
Oh,
and
1000%, yeah.
like all of the foreshadowing that happens,
Mhm.
all of the things with double meaning, the symbolism behind a lot of stuff, like yeah, the whole daffodils,
Mhm.
in comparison to Sophie herself trying to make something beautiful out of something not. Like
Yeah.
there's this whole like back and forth. Okay, and I kept thinking about this. I love that uh that Howl said to Sophie, "I've been wondering all along if you would turn out to be that lovely girl I met on May Day." Like, he liked her back then!
Right? It's
He
so
thought she
cute.
was cute! And he's like, "Why were you so scared?"
I love it though. I just love it. I just love their interaction. It's so sweet. I love that like at the end too, you can tell that they are just focused in on each other even with everything else going on around them. Like they're finally both just admitting to liking each other in that moment. It's just so cute.
Well, yeah, like all those moments where they're like, "Well, if they had any attention to spare anybody else, they would."
Mhm.
Why do you have this picture? Oh my gosh, I don't know where the cats got this from, but my mom made me this. Like she colored it for me, and they've poked holes in it with their
Oh
little bare
no.
teeth.
Oh no. Cats
I
causing
can't have
chaos.
anything. Cats are chaos, and I gotta
Yes, they
move it, and
are.
there's teeth holes in it now. Rude. But anyway, yeah, I think it's probably like 4 or 5 times they're like, "Well, if they could spare attention to anybody else," like, they are so, like, laser focused on each other,
Mhm.
and the only thing that gets both of their attention is the fact that Michael's like, "Calcifer's come back!" And they're like, "Oh."
I love it.
But just they're still teasing each other too, like, their relationship didn't change.
No.
The you know, uh,
They've just
issue
literally it's just like they're both finally honest. They're both finally
Yes,
able to admit that they like each other. Like, yeah. Just like Calcifer's free, they're finally free to just admit it. Like no longer
and
the
it
curses aren't looming over them anymore.
and they've had this relationship the whole time, this, like,
Mhm.
antagonistic, like, snippy relationship, and that hasn't changed now that she's her young, pretty self, like,
Mhm.
they're still,
They're
like,
still the
poking
same.
fun at each other, like, "It should
So
be
cute.
hair-raising, and you'll exploit me, and you'll cut up all my suits to teach me." Like, but they're just so besotted with each other,
Mhm.
I and like the book obviously points out so much that Howell's a liar. Howell's a liar. It's literally built into the curse that he has to
Yeah.
finally be honest. But Sophie is just like him. She's
Yeah.
constantly in denial. She's lying about her feelings. She's lying to herself. Like she's constantly like they're so similar, it's ridiculous.
Mhm. And
And
that's what makes them work so well together.
yep. Well, and her Fanny and her sisters are like, "Oh, you're too nice. You're too nice." Well,
Mhm.
then Sophie has to admit Howell's actually really nice. So they're both these like curmudgeony sort of people. They're
Mhm.
both they're both like grouch pants, but they're both really nice people.
Yeah.
They just couldn't admit it to each other because he's always like, if something's messed up, of course it's Sophie. Like, anytime anything goes wrong, he's like, "Sophie, what'd you do?" And, Sophie's like, "Oh, he deserved it because he's just evil." And I'm like, both of you were lying to each other so much.
Oh, it's so cute though. I love
I
the
I
ending of
love
it.
their relationship.
It's so well done. It's so cute.
Like, and for a book written back in, 86,
Mhm.
and it's meant as more of a kid's book too. It's actually a
Mhm.
really good story.
It is. It really is. Like I
Like,
said,
it
it's
doesn't
really well put together. It's really well written. It's well thought out. It's just a really good story. Really unique
yeah.
too.
And I don't know if your book has it, but my book has an interview with the author at the end.
Yes, mine does.
There was one question that I saw as I was flipping through, and it made me laugh. Let's see. One second. Where is it? Uh, where is that question?
I don't know which one you're looking for, so I'm not sure.
Oh. We see some of Howl and Sophie's life in Castle in the Air and A House of Many Ways, but do you have any idea what a typical day in their happily ever after is like? The author answers, this is number 11, by the way.
I
A
see it, I see it.
typical day in the life of Howl and Sophie? Well, there would be at least two quarrels, one violent argument, and an explosion of strange magic. They are not yeah, they are not quite a pair.
Great. Okay, so there's other books too. Castle
Yes,
in
I
the Air
actually
and House
have
of Many
both of
Ways.
them.
I'm gonna need to
Yeah,
get
I
those to read
I have
them.
both of them. I don't think here, I'll go and grab them and I'll read the backs to you
Okay.
because they are set in the same universe. There goes the Kindle. Okay. So, House of Many Ways. This is the sequel to Howl's Moving Castle. And it says, when Chairman Baker agreed to look after her great uncle's house, she thought she was getting blissful parent-free time to read. She did not realize that the house bent space and time, and she did not expect to become responsible for an extremely magical stray dog and a muddled young apprentice wizard. Now, somehow she had been targeted by a terrifying creature called a Lubbock, too, and become central to the king's urgent search for the fabled elf gift that will save the country. The king is so desperate to find the elf gift that he's called in an intimidating sorceress named Sophie to help. And where Sophie is, the great wizard Howl and fire demon Calcifer won't be far behind. How did respectable chairman end up in such a mess, and how will she get herself out of it? So this
Interesting.
one's not
Okay.
like it's not centered around Howl and Sophie, but they are
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
And notice she's known as a sorceress now.
Yeah.
And then Castle in the Air. Young merchant Abdullah seemed young merchant Abdullah leads a humble life, or he did until a stranger sold him a threadbare and disagreeable magic carpet. Now Abdullah is caught in the middle of his grand daydreams. Walking one night in a luxurious garden, he meets and falls instantly in love with a beautiful and clever flowers in the night. That's capitalized like a name. But a wicked jinn sweeps the dear sweet lord. I've read for too much. But a wicked jinn sweeps the princess away right before Abdullah's eyes, leaving the young man no choice but to follow. This is no ordinary quest, however, for Flower in the Night isn't all the jinn has stolen. Abdullah will have the so called help of the cantankerous carpet, a cranky genie in a bottle, a dishonest soldier, and a very opinionated black cat. Will this motley crew be able to find the jinn's mysterious dwelling and rescue a castle full of princesses?
Interesting.
So
I
this
mean,
one, it says a companion to Howl's Moving Castle.
yeah. I feel like the books, just because of the writer and like the style of their writing and stuff, I feel like they'd be good, which is why I would want to read them. Not necessarily for the story of Sophie and
Yeah.
Howl, but just for the fact that it's a good writer.
Yeah,
You know
that's
what I
why I
mean?
bought them.
Yeah, because I feel like they're good stories, even if they're separate stories. So
But yeah, there are so many references to the heart, um, or like the curse.
hmm
So The very first one is on page 93. You'll be the death of this is Calcifer. You'll be the death of me. You're as heartless as Howl, Calcifer choked. So every time like Calcifer calls him heartless, like he means it. He literally is heartless.
Mhm.
So there's so many references scattered throughout the book to their contract, to the heart. And Sophie, being Sophie, is blind to all of it.
Of
He's like,
course.
I basically just told you. She's like, I missed it. Could you say it again? He's like, that's not the point.
Well, if you go on with the book and stuff, she's not really thinking through all the things, and I don't think she's really for the entirety of it until the end. She's not thinking about the curse. She's not thinking about the hints. She's making that very clear. It's a back of her mind kind of thing. She's just like, yeah, I'll do it, but she's not picking up on the hints because she's not looking for them. She's not trying to think
Well,
about them.
in
You know what
the
I mean?
early days she was, because she starts after they like learn about
Yeah,
the witch's curse, she starts like writing things down and she really is trying to figure it out, but she's
she
just so
is.
oblivious
Yeah,
that like when he says these things that she's just like she misses them completely.
yeah.
And then towards the end, and that was another thing because she didn't want to think about it because she didn't want to leave the castle.
Mm-hmm.
She had just admitted to herself that she loved Howl. And
She
it's you can
finally did in
tell.
the end, though.
You can tell like in the beginning. She really does hate him in the beginning. But
Mm-hmm.
then the nicer he is and the more contrasting he is between like what she thinks she knows about him versus how he actually is.
Mm-hmm.
Like they're the classic like uptight girl and crazy guy, but they somehow like work together.
Mm-hmm.
I just love them and I love the book
I do too. It's
and
great. Genuinely, it's great.
yeah, they're so fantastic together.
They are. It's so cute.
And it's not like a gushy romance. Like it's this
Mm-hmm.
slow burn
Very
and
slow
this
burn.
the little like spots here and there of the realization that oh, maybe it's just her getting so mad about the suit will always
Mm-hmm.
get me. Like she's so pissed off about this suit and she's like, "Damn that suit." And it's not even the same suit.
Right?
I'm like, "Sophie, honey, every like she goes through every possibility besides the most obvious that
Yeah.
she likes him."
Yep. She can't admit it until finally,
Nope.
and she has to be honest.
Yep. And I
So cute.
loved that in the end they both had to be honest with themselves
Mm-hmm.
because she's like, oh, he's having to be honest now. I'm like, Sophie, you yourself have been realizing some things. Like,
Yeah.
girl, don't even.
It's so cute. It's so well paced as well with that. That's what I really
Hmm.
enjoy with it. They do not rush it. I like that they saved it for the end. Like it was so well paced.
I love when he gets up and he's like, I have to go save that fool Sophie. And she's like, I'm here.
So cute.
Like, he literally wakes up from being almost dead and he's like, Sophie. And
Right?
she's
And
like,
that's how you know that
please.
that's how you know he cares.
Oh yeah. And then when she's like, "Oh, he must love Miss Angorian because he didn't bother to prepare himself or clean like he didn't shave and
Mhm.
like I'm like,
But
"Girl,
instead
it's
it's for
you. He
Sophie.
loves you."
Yep. She realized it in the end.
And the fact that he says that he deliberately left Wales because honestly, he didn't belong there.
Mhm.
And his sister was kind of horrible to him. Like she's
Mhm.
always saying that he never amounted to anything. She pretty much calls him like worthless.
Mhm.
So he never really belonged there. And she's like, "Oh, I thought that was your weak spot." And everyone's like, "It's you. He loves you. You are the glaring weak spot." And the fact that he went to all of her family just to keep her busy, like,
Mhm.
was like, "Come to my house, distract her." And they're just like, "Oh, okay."
I love it. It's
And
so cute.
Sophie never questions.
No,
Never once questions.
not until the end at least. Not until the end
Yeah.
whenever she finally
And
does
then,
start to. I really
but
loved
like,
it. I loved her character development of it.
and once again, the author is so fantastic with the whole. we start wondering, why is Miss Angorian not thinking this is weird? And then
Mhm.
it pops up with Fanny. Where's my carriage? So yeah, it's that was deliberately thrown in to be like,
Oh,
you
yeah.
should have been Miss Angorian should have been questioning.
Yep.
Like, oh, for like I said, for a book written in '86 that's supposed to be a children's book, it is actually a very good study
It
for
is.
how to write a good story.
It is. It really is. I would agree. I would totally agree.
But yeah, so that was the end of Howl's Moving Castle. Audio, I don't know, do you should we announce the book that we're doing next or should
Yeah.
we leave it as a
No,
surprise?
I think we can announce it if people want to know. I don't have it over here, do I?
Oh, I have it.
You have it for the name?
Yeah, so this was Audio's pick.
Okay.
It's Mornings Without Me, M spelled MII, by Mayumi Inaba.
I think so. And I'll post it in Discord as well. And I think you'll post it as well in yours, Rose, for Discord.
Yeah.
If you guys want to check out the book, find it and do the reading with us, you're more than welcome to. We'll post as well in the Discord when our next stream will be. So yeah.
Yeah, but
Yep, yep, yep.
thank you all so much for joining us on this what 9 month 8 month journey to read this book.
Yes, thank you, thank you.
um
Thank you for hanging
and
out today
yep,
and stream, everybody.
so that is the end of Howl's Moving Castle. I'm going to definitely mute. We'll do the outro, but thank you everyone.
Sounds good, sounds good. All right. I am also deafened and muted. I do want to say a huge thank you, everybody, for coming and hanging out today. I really do appreciate it very, very much. Very excited that we reached the end of Howl's Moving Castle. It was a very great book. Thank you, thank you. Like I said, I'll post in Discord what the next book's gonna be. It's a short book. It's a shorter one. And I'm really looking forward to reading it. I found this book kind of at random whenever I was just going through a bookstore, and I was like, this looks cute. It also looks horribly sad, which is going to be great. So if you guys are interested in it, um, if you want to look for the book, otherwise, we'll of course do another podcast talking about the book in the future. But until then, I will be back tomorrow for regular stream time. I don't think we'll be starting. I think it's Doom that's up in the vote next. I think I'll be doing more Axiom Verge. I'll try doing some more speedruns for it. I'm not quite sure yet, but either Doom or Axiom Verge is probably what we're gonna end up doing. But I look forward to seeing you guys all then, and I hope you all have a fantastic rest of your weekend. Bye, you guys.